Hello and welcome to the Game Informer Show podcast. I'm Ben Hansen, Skyping in remotely for this chunk at least. And right now I'm joined by Kyle Hilliard and Leo Vader.
Hello.
I can't wait to hear about what this episode's going to be like.
Oh my God, it's a weird one. So I'm at GDC right now. So I'm Skyping in for this section, but I'm only going to be here for bits and pieces of this entire episode. We have a lot to cover. So first up, talking Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. Dan Tax coming in. Hey guys, for a teaser, does he like that game?
He seems to.
He seems to like it.
Okay, please put him through the ringer. I won't be there for that, but please just get something definitive out of him on that. Then after that, we're talking to Kyle about Baba Is You.
And Leo.
Oh, and Leo, this crew. I'm looking forward to that. I love that game.
Me too.
And then we're going to talk about GDC stuff. So, you know, there was the Nindies, which I'm sorry I have to say out loud, but Nintendo's Indies, we'll cover that. And then also talking about big GDC news, which just seems like the number one piece of news. Google's Stadia. They're all streaming future. I was in the room when it was announced, and it was electric. We'll talk all about it. And then Kyle, something bizarre, but we're going to talk about visiting the set of Detective Pikachu.
Yeah, you're going to suddenly transport to the studio and be here. And then we'll talk about Detective Pikachu, which I saw. I was on the set of the movie a year ago.
Yeah, you're going to go back in time.
That's right.
It's going to be bizarre. Yeah, this definitely is a cobbled together episode, but I'm so happy you guys back home are making it work. And then after that, community emails. Leo, I'm counting you to choose only the best emails.
Okay. There will be 3 emails.
Okay, fantastic. And then back half of the show, we're talking more about The Division 2. Seems like Reiner is red hot on it. Matt Burt's got his review at the door. He gave it a 9.0. You can read his review on GameInformer.com. But there's a lot to cover there, and it's time to get a little more specific with Division 2. So hopefully there's a crew there that can cover that. For now, do you guys want to clap in Lord Dan Tack, talk about Sekiro?
Come here.
Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice. I've been excited for this game so much that I've taken over Hansen's spot in this chair.
Oh. Did you kill him? Did you come up behind him and violently thrust a sword into his neck and then spin him around?
I think I was just so impassioned by the combination of Cadence of Hyrule coming on and want to talk about how I'm excited about that, and also say that what they've done to Kid Goku and Dragon Ball FighterZ is a travesty. It should not be the GT version. It should be original Dragon Ball. But with that out of the way, thank you, Kyle.
We got the important stuff out of the way.
I am
the
speaking
platform.
That's right. Speaking truth to power. Bandai Namco. Not Bandai Namco. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. The latest title from Software. That's right. Published by Activision. That game is out tomorrow, but we have the review up right now.
Yes.
Dan, you've played it.
It is. Have I ever?
You've beaten it.
Yes, one ending.
Oh, one ending. All right, Kyle.
There are multiple endings.
How many times have you beaten it?
I beat the first mini boss. I've probably played for about 2 hours. But Dan, tell us, you've had the full experience.
So before we start, we should actually say that we're going to try to keep this as spoiler-free as possible to sort of like just let people know what the game's about without... I do not want to spoil this game for anybody. It is, like many other From Software games, it's an experience, and there are some very cool things in this game that I do not want, that you should not know going in. And I will be dancing around them and not speaking about many aspects of the game if anything comes up. I want to keep this safe for everybody to listen to and enjoy.
Grappling out of the way of spoilers. So Dan, so just in general, like in your review, you say that this is one of the hardest games you have ever played.
That is true.
Is that relative to the series or to all video games?
So there are 2 factors in this, and that's relative to all video games. But one thing I want to bring out strongly first, especially since people who are interested in this game are going to be Souls players, probably first and foremost, and that is the play style of combat in this game is a major hurdle that you're going to have to get over, because you're going to treat it like a Souls game or a Bloodborne game where you start dodging out of the way and trying to pick your opportunity moments. You know, this is all about actually staying in their face as much as possible and actually parrying and countering. The getting into this mindset for me took several days to just go against everything that I've learned and say, no, you need to be right in their face, right in front of that lethal attack and deflecting that lethal attack or countering it.
Once you got used to that, sort of different playstyle, did you find the game eventually got easier? Because I feel like that happens with Dark Souls games.
At that point, you can then play the game at the mid-tier. I think the first part of that game is very accessible. Anyone can do it kind of thing. You know, I always say anyone can beat a Dark Souls game, and I truly believe that. This game, difficulty does ramp up significantly in the mid to late game. And it becomes very challenging even after you have mastered the moveset, just because everything is on a hair trigger. It's all about one mistake, one big mistake, or one big smashing combo that you land. it's such an intense and sometimes incredibly stressful method of being up next to this thing that can slaughter you in literally under a second if you mess up. But when you pull it off, it feels amazing. You're like, wow, I did it. And that's sort of like how Souls does things, right? You're like, wow, I beat this great boss. But it is more intense and more stressful and more frenetic in that terms. Like it's a battle of death, and any second things can change, go from perfect to catastrophe, or the other way around.
It's definitely a game where like single millisecond moments count a lot.
Absolutely.
Like you can destroy like a minor enemy or like get really a lot of damage done on a boss in just a split second, which is kind of a Dark Souls thing. Like you can die very quickly in Dark Souls, but like here it's like it really comes down to these like a bunch of moments. Like, did you get that counter right? Did you get behind that enemy and like stealth kill them and stuff like that?
And along those lines, people always make fun of the hitboxes and stuff in the Souls games. In this game, combat is extremely precise, very precise, and you will get the hang of it, I think, if you put the time in. There is so much dying in this game. People always say, "Oh yeah, Dark Souls, you're gonna die a lot." You're gonna die an absurd amount in this game, learning some of the harder encounters because they do require not only great performance by yourself in the heat of the moment, and learning perhaps weaknesses to exploit in the boss, but more so than a Souls game where you're looking for those moments of opportunity. This is more about complete mastery of the boss's attack pattern and exploiting precise moments.
And part of that, from your review, it feels like not only is death sort of more common, but even with the sort of new revival sort of ability that you can sort of resurrect yourself.
Yeah.
You mentioned that death has sort of another penalty.
That is for a complete death. So let's say you die and then you die again. That will trigger a dragon rot effect across the world, or can trigger it. It doesn't always. It can trigger a dragon rot effect across the world, which can make many of the friendly NPCs that you meet over the course of the game ill. And you can still use many of their services, but this will actually lock out certain side quest lines.
Interesting.
Some that you may want to do because they'll be too sick to talk to you and interact with you in that way.
Just permanently? Like if you die...
Dragon rot can be removed. There's a rare item that you'll get a decent amount of over the course of the game. You should probably be judicious in your use of them. When you use one of these items, all the dragon rot for all the characters that are sick will go away.
Okay.
So if you know that you have like a ton of boss attempts coming up on someone who's probably going to slaughter you over and over, just let the rot stack up.
Okay.
And then eventually, once you're moved on, it's time. Then you can remove it when you want to sort of interact with these NPCs in different ways.
Common medicinal practice is to just let it build up and then just cure it all at once.
Yeah.
Stack the rot.
Beyond sort of the combat, which feels like it's markedly different, you would say?
The combat is markedly different, and that was one of the biggest challenges, is first learning to not play it like any of those other games.
Okay.
You can't. You can early. It's pretty forgiving early. You can sort of get away with those Bloodborne moments. Later on, the enemy posture bar, if you're not up in their grill, then the posture will just go back down. And you'll be like, I got nothing done, and I'm majorly hurt for this.
Okay. And so beyond that sort of aspect of combat, do you feel it's structurally different from other Dark Souls games?
I do. In fact, this game, because of the way it's created, there is definite room for side exploration, I think, more so than any other From Software action title. There are points in the game where you have many different avenues that you can explore. If you're banging your head up against a wall on a certain boss, there are perhaps 2, perhaps 3 other routes that you can take to explore and find additional items or things that might help you.
Okay.
In your quest.
And does that factor into sort of the multiple ending stuff you mentioned earlier?
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about those too much, but the game does have multiple endings. Getting to 2 of them is very obvious.
Go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
There's a third that I discovered the path to, but have not completed, and I don't know how to get the 4th at all yet.
Are there any sort of conversations with characters where you make a choice?
I don't want to. Yeah, okay. I don't want to.
One thing I will say, and I'm early on in the game, so this definitely won't be any spoiler chat or anything. But one thing that I like about the game early on is that there is just generally more story. There's more cutscenes. There's more your character is a character who has dialogue and talks. Like I feel like I've only been playing for like 2 or 3 hours. I feel like I already have a better sense of the actual characters in this world than I ever did in any of the Dark Souls or Bloodborne games.
So the story is explicitly told.
Yeah, which I like.
There's nowhere like you don't have to go and find an an item in a crevasse and pore over its lore for a long time to figure out what's happening in the story. You should be up on that at all times.
Do you still find that it's worth it to look at that stuff?
Yes, if you'd like to, there are extremely valuable side quests that you'll want to complete to get things that may unlock new avenues for you.
Okay, and do you think that fans who like that sort of more mystical approach of
I think the Souls fans are going to like this game once they get a hang of that combat. It goes against all instinct. It's like, oh, I just want to back off and run around and speed around and get behind them. That's not how you do it. Not anymore. And it's a radical change. And once you get past that, you're like, wow, this is really cool. This is really awesome. But you'll still there are some boss fights in this game that are just very tough.
Harder than anything in Dark Souls?
I think so, and I may regret those words.
Okay, harder than Nameless King.
A year from now, when everyone's like, "Oh, you just had to master, parrying and deflecting and all that stuff," and oh, you just had to use this prosthetic on this boss, and he's weak to that.
I mean, everyone online is super understanding about people's skill levels. They won't immediately go to this is the obvious way that everyone should have known the first time they ever saw a boss.
They will do that, but right now, my feeling is that it is harder than any Souls game, harder than Nameless King, harder than Orphan of Kos.
Okay.
Harder than anything in those games. That is my current feeling on them.
So the other big question, overall, where do you think this sits in sort of From Software's big lineage?
Before I played this game, I thought this was just going to fit into the Souls. I would throw it into the Soulsborne hero.
That it was going to be easy to rank among those games?
But just put him in there. But I think this is its own new thing.
Really?
This is its own diversion. The combat is so different that even though it has lots of From's like skeleton of bonfires and Estus Flask and all these other things that you've come to expect, it plays differently and feels different. And I think it actually needs to be judged as its own separate thing, which is sort of in the same ballpark, but it's in the stands over here, and the other Soulsborne games are over here.
Okay, but gun to your head.
Oh, God.
Where would you put it?
You mean ranking it?
Yeah, ranking it among
The franchises, the
God.
three,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
I mean,
it's
just
so
rank it
early.
among From Software games that we know, excluding Deracine or whatever.
I don't want to rank it there yet.
Okay.
I think I have to complete the other endings.
Okay.
And really see and experience some New Game Plus and
So
that kind of thing.
here's my quick thing on the multiple ending stuff is, do you think it's worth it to go back? Because I feel like having multiple endings is one of those things where if you want to go through the game again, it feels like I don't know if I want to run through this incredibly difficult game again.
Without getting too spoilery, yes, it is worth doing other avenues.
Okay.
Because there's some content you can't see otherwise.
Kyle, we were talking a little bit earlier, and you said that there were, since this game is so different from other games, that you actually like that a lot of the differences here, right?
Yeah, I haven't hit that big difficulty spike yet.
Yeah.
I'm like 2 or 3 hours in.
You'll
but
know
like,
when you see it.
but my early impressions are very positive. There's a bunch of things that I like right out of the gate. Like I like being able the stealth aspect of the game, like being able to sneak up behind enemies and just brutally kill them quickly is fun. I like how combat feels a lot quicker, like you're killing enemies faster than you would in From's other games. I also like it kind of sounds like a small thing, but like in the actual context of the game, it makes a big difference. Having a jump button makes a big difference in terms of how you move around the world and how you engage in combat. And like it just like being able to jump off of a roof and just like instant kill people from above is super fun. And then what's it called? I want to say hook shot, but that's the Zelda term.
The grapple?
The grappling hook. Like I love how it changes the way you move around and explore. Because like I'm kind of an odd Dark Souls fan in that like From Software's games, I love like moving around those worlds. I like taking on the little skirmishes with the smaller enemies. I've never really enjoyed the boss fights. Like the boss fights always just kind of become this like barrier to like get to the next area that I want to explore. Like that are just kind of frustrating ultimately. Like that's just my personal feeling on it. And what I like so much about Sekiro is that it makes like moving around the world like just so much more fun. Like jumping around, sneaking up on people and killing them, and then like like grappling your way out of there. Even in the middle of boss fights, if you want to just catch a breather, there's at least in the few that I've done, like there's an opportunity to get up and kind of just catch your breath for a minute while you're trying to figure stuff out. And like I am really having a good time with it.
You think you like it more than most of the other software games you played?
I'm only like a few hours in, so I don't want to like, put my stamp there and say like,
Sure.
yeah, this was the best. But like just for the things that I personally like in games, like good movement, good jumping. I also like that you play as an individual character who is like a person with a personality. Those things may make a stronger first impression than any of the Dark Souls or Bloodborne did for me.
Here's another question. Do you think that this will appeal to people who don't like Dark Souls games? Do you think if this is sort of, hey, I've heard about the Dark Souls games, didn't really take to them, you think this is a good point to say, like, it's maybe a little indifferent enough. It's still hard, but...
I don't know. I mean, maybe, because, like, I think if you like stealth games, like, I think there's a lot more opportunities for fun stealth in this game. Where, with the exception of the boss fights are, like, going to continue to be those really difficult barriers. But maybe, because it does feel different enough, and it's not as, like, RPG intensive as those past games. So, potentially.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm curious what Dan
Hop
thinks.
from Devil May Cry 5 to this.
It is kind of weird to go between those two games.
I don't know. If the Souls game's difficulty puts you off, I think this might too. This can get pretty formidable.
So it depends on sort of what aspect of Dark Souls you bounced off of. And I think for a lot of people, that's the difficulty.
Yeah.
But,
if it's like, if the movement felt too stiff for you or slow, because, like, combat is very specific in Dark Souls and Bloodborne, where, like, I feel like Sekiro's a lot faster, and you can die a lot faster, but it is faster.
Everything happens faster. You're killing the enemy when you know what you're doing, and you dying.
It's also just so much more satisfying to kill people in this game.
Yeah.
Because you get every kill is like an awesome animation, and it moves really fast.
And
like,
those actually get cooler later, but I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah,
So
like, it's just
God of War-esque peeling someone's skin off as you're...
There's other things that you can unlock later to make those deaths more interesting.
Is it really one of the upgrade trees is make this death more gruesome?
I don't want to get into that particular aspect. I will say there is one, perhaps two boss fights in this game that have entered my top 5 from software bosses.
Not willing to rank the game, though, but those
Correct.
those
Not willing to rank
bosses.
the game against the others currently. I mean, Bloodborne is still my favorite, but then putting Sekiro against the others head to head, I'm not ready to do that yet.
Okay.
However, one of the bosses that has already been revealed is one of my favorite bosses. In fact, Miyazaki talked about this boss, and he's now my favorite as well.
Mr. Underhanded guy? Or?
No, Mr. Underhanded guy can go. I'm not talking about Mr. Underhanded guy. In fact, I'm actually curious about which fight he meant by that, because there were 2 fights that I could have thought were the ones that he was talking about for that one. But the other one that Miyazaki talked about in our interview, this isn't a spoiler because he already talked to it about us, but the ape. I'm not going to go into anything about that fight except that it is now one of my favorites.
Do you think it's similar to the ape in Astrobot, the giant robot that was helping you through that one level?
We had to knock out his teeth.
A game you've obviously played?
I have not played that
Okay.
game. And I would also wager this fight's a lot different.
Okay.
You got a score, right?
Yeah.
We do have a score.
What is the score, Dan?
The score is a 9.0.
Is that the same as Dark Souls 3?
No.
Okay.
Dark Souls 3 got a 9.25 from me.
Okay.
What else do you want to say?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like there's a lot more to talk about, but I don't know what. I feel like a lot of people want to know more about this game.
Combat's fun. Jumping around
Oh
is
yeah,
fun.
environments.
Okay.
People have asked a lot of questions about a couple of different things. How long does it take to beat the game? Environments. I want to cover all this stuff. So I would say for a Souls player to acclimate and then complete an ending, and this is all very variable because some of these boss fights do take hours to master. They might take you 2 hours. They might take you 6 hours. I know one of the fights might take you 10 hours, maybe more.
Okay.
That one. So I'd say, people have been concerned about game like I'd say anywhere from 45 to 70
hours.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my estimate.
Are you doing a lot of Metroidvania-esque
You are
backtracking?
there are Metroidvania aspects that I'm not going to go into specifics about, but you are rewarded for exploring earlier areas with newfound abilities.
Do you feel like the game is telling you that naturally, or is it a thing where you have to remember?
It's pretty explicit.
Okay.
It's pretty explicit.
Do you think the areas sort of benefit from having, here's sort of different ways to engage? Because that's one of the things that, from when we did the cover story, that was one of the things that stood out to me most.
I think there are some really cool, actually, set piece moments that they accomplish because they have these new traversal options. And you saw one of them in the video we posted yesterday with the snake, where you're sort of just hiding and enduring this giant monster near you. And I think there's some other really good ones that I can't talk about, but that really play into this whole like ninja fantasy. There's a really cool moment that involves fast traversal and a bridge, and it's fun.
Okay.
All right.
It's fun and
cryptic.
yeah, I got to keep it that way.
Okay.
And let's see.
Well, you want to talk about the environment?
People ask, yeah, environments are great, and people are worried it's all going to happen in that one Japanese castle that they've seen 1,000 times. It doesn't. There are some varied areas, and the game plays with. Well, no. All right. Yeah,
I'm going to list out some crazy concepts, and you react however you
want.
I
don't know.
Aliens.
I think we should just stop there in terms of that.
Yetis.
I do want to keep this completely safe for
Abominable
everybody. I know
snowmen.
it sucks not to talk about stuff,
Crossovers.
but this is all stuff we can talk about like a month down the line.
Okay.
When everyone's had their
spoiler cast.
yeah, exactly. When everyone's had a chance to get in there and see it for themselves. But there are varied environments and varied enemies. You're not just going to fight samurais and ninjas the whole time, or like poorly equipped guards. And there's an I'd say around the same enemy variety as the other games.
Okay. And along with the ending stuff, do you feel like the upgrade tree was just sort of their big shift between like, hey, instead of making your character like a wizard, you can just use the upgrade tree a different way. Do you think that adds
I
anything?
think because of the way combat is so centric in you learning how to counter and parry and dodge appropriately, that you're right. They couldn't have done it in another way. Like, what is the tanky build going to do? Just sit there and take a flurry of stabs in the face, and the wizard just wins? Like, wait, it sounds like Dark Souls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that had to be done, and I think that there's still upgrades. Like, that's not a lot of people don't know, but you can collect 4 prayer beads to increase your health and posture, and more importantly, every time you beat a major boss, you get a memory, and the memory gives you 1 attack power. You start the game with 1 attack power.
So like a move or
No, just your attacks will do more damage and posture damage.
Okay. And you can't upgrade your sword, right? You have 1 sword throughout the whole game, right? Or is that spoilery? All right.
Yeah, that's spoilery.
Okay.
But you will be using that same katana for. Yeah, I'm not talking about swords. No talk about swords.
Okay.
The memories. So you start off with 1 attack power. Every time you kill a major boss, you get 1 more attack power from that memory. And this is important when you get to that stage of the game where you have multiple avenues to explore. You hit the wall on one boss and you're just like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. Killing another boss will give you a significant increase in your attack power to tackle that battle.
Okay.
So when you find yourself stuck on 1, you maybe have another 1, maybe even 2 different routes you can take to sort of hedge that and sort of make life a little easier for you.
On the flip side of that, do you think that going through the game again, let's say, is it enough in the skill tree that you could run a different build? Like, hey, I'm going to go for more of an archery build.
No, nothing like that. Nothing like that. But they do very smart things with the skill tree, like for combat arts. A lot of things you get on the skill trees are combat arts, and you can only use 1 at a time. Only one can be equipped at a time, so you have to carefully pick the right combat art for the right encounter.
Okay. And did you get everything, basically fill out that entire tree by the end of the game, or do you feel
I did not,
okay.
but you can. It's very doable. It just requires some grinding. You'll have to grind quite a bit to fill out all skill trees, I believe.
Okay. I guess I don't want to delve too much into spoilers, but do you feel like there's beyond that, there's more reasons to explore beyond sort of
exploration will give you extra tools that you will find useful. Like, the game rewards you for exploration. That's how you're going to find lots of hidden things that are super valuable. So interesting, they made it so you can zip through the world really fast, either sprint because you have infinite sprint,
which I love,
and grappling.
No stamina.
You can swim too, right?
But you will miss so much.
You swim super fast. It's crazy.
If you try to do that, I'm sure the speedrunners are going to just rip this game apart once they're complete masters, and that's going to take a while, even for the best. I assure you. But you're going to miss a lot of really important things if you do that. It benefits you to, like, the first time you're in an area, clear that thing out and look in every nook and cranny, check for ledges, check for trees that might be hanging down across the side there. There's lots of secrets, tons of them, possibly more than any other game, and tons of side quests too that give you benefits.
Okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about with Sekiro?
Shadows Die Twice.
All right.
Seems cool. I'm excited to keep playing. I haven't. I'm gonna hit that difficulty wall for sure. Like, I see it in the distance, but like I said, first impressions very strong. Like, I'm having a great time in the first couple hours.
So no reason fans of Dark Souls games shouldn't pick this up, you think?
I think if you like other From Software games, you're gonna love this.
What about Tenchu fans?
I haven't played Tenchu.
Okay.
I mean, it's a stealth samurai.
You're gonna love this game. Again, it takes acclimation, and that might be the most challenging part for the hardcore fans.
Well, I can't wait to play it.
You know what's
Kyle,
funny?
I believe in you.
You believe in me?
Yeah, I think you can do it.
I have renewed faith. Thank you.
Great. All right. Well, next up we've got Baba Is You. If you guys want to clap out.
Well, I'm gonna clap, but I'm gonna move over a seat to clap.
All right. Whatever, Kyle.
And hi, I'm back, everybody.
Hi. What is it? How does it feel to clap in, Hanson? Do you like it?
My hands tingle a little bit. I guess that's the magic rubbing in or something.
It gets the adrenaline up.
Kyle, yeah. Last week, Kyle, you started reviewing Baba Is You.
Yeah.
And you were like, oh, I guess I could start talking about it a little bit in that Detective Pikachu segment that's going to be coming up. The timeline's all messed up. But you're like, do you know what the hook is with this game? And I said, no. And I'm so happy that I didn't. And so here's my pitch for talking about this puzzle game, Baba Is You. What if we don't explain the basic hook of the game?
Oh, so do not educate people on what the game is, you're saying.
No,
what a
I
novel
think we can
idea.
talk about it. It is a block-pushing puzzle game, but one of my favorite moments of the year so far has been realizing, like, oh, this is how it works? Just for, like, the base level, second level style tutorial. Am I insane?
No, it is definitely a moment where you're like, oh, this is very clever. This is like one of those clever puzzle games. Very clever.
And there are lots of things you think should work, and then you'll start to realize why they don't, and you're kind of learning the rules that way.
It is, if you're obsessed with logic, if you like programming in any way, it's for you. And Kyle, I don't like puzzle games, and I effing love Baba Is You.
Really?
Yeah. Is it just because I'm not far enough to start really beating my head against a wall yet?
Maybe. Well, I'm curious. Well, like generally, how far are you guys? Like Leo, you guys, all three of us have been playing it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
I don't know, probably like 3/4 of the way, and it there's a lot of variables. Like my favorite puzzle games are ones that really hone in on a single idea, like a portal gun, and really extrapolate that into a lot of ways. Baba Is You is different in that like the deeper you get, every level you literally like you start it up, there are like sometimes like 12 to 15 different puzzle variables that you're dealing with in order to continue, and it can be overwhelming. And it may be, and sometimes even too much. Like I will say, the further I'm getting into it, the less I'm enjoying it and the more frustrated I'm getting with it because it gets really complicated, which might be a great thing for like hardcore puzzle fans. That might be what they want for sure.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I'm about like in the third world, so I'm probably at the sweet spot for like still moving, but playing it on the flight because it's on Switch and PC at this point. Playing it on the flight, having a good time, but there's definitely,
you can
some
see
sessions are
how
about 20
complicated
minutes of
it's.
me just looking out the window, confused.
Yeah, you can like even just starting early on. Once you get it, you can kind of just like, okay, I can see how this is going to get very complicated.
Yeah, yeah. Leo, what do you think this thing?
I like it a lot. It's very, very satisfying to complete a puzzle, and I like that you can't brute force your way through them. There's just too many variables you can do such specific things with that you really need to, instead of just trying everything, sometimes you need to just sit and stare at it and not do anything until you can piece together what's happening.
I mean, I've run into that a little bit where I do have to rearrange things just to see what works, and then I figure out what collection of things work, and then it's like, okay, now how do I take that and use it to open that door over there, which will give me the key, which I can pull out and blah, 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 blah. Like, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting to talk about it without talking about exactly how it works, for sure.
And yeah, maybe I'm insane for not explaining it. It's block pushing logic game that goes directions that you're hoping it goes, I guess is the best setup for what this is. But it's just, when I had that epiphany moment of like, this is what the game is, it's just so bizarre to see a puzzle game in the year 2019 where it's like, hey, here's a fresh take. Here's something that I've never played before. And I guess there are games that are roughly similar. It feels very, I took a logic course in college. It feels a little bit derived from that, where it's just like there's references that you could make. But at the same point, it's like, I've never seen this. This is so much fun to play.
It is a combination of like two styles of puzzles that overlap in a way that you wouldn't expect them to, for sure. And I really like the style. It's very simple. It kind of reminds me of like almost like crayon drawings. Like I kind of get like a Yoshi's Island vibe from it sometimes.
Yeah.
I like the music too. I think the music is good for like puzzle game, just thinking a lot. It's cool.
Homer Simpson with the jugs. Dun, dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun. Yeah, essentially the entire thing. Although, a fun presentation. Just the Baba Is You name makes sense when you start playing the game. And then it's just a fun thing.
Yeah.
Like, texting with friends to try and solve these puzzles. And it's like, oh, and just like the bop, 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 like rhythm to the text in the game, I feel like is such a fun way to communicate about the puzzles. You know what I mean?
And you're talking about like one of your favorite moments of the year. It is connected to the title, I think, because you hear the title and you're like, what? Baba Is You? This is very confusing. But once you start playing, it makes perfect sense, and it is the perfect name for that game.
Yeah, there are so many times where I wanted to share a little thing I did in a puzzle or whatever that just thought was like such a clever thing for the game to do, but then realized that I would rather let people experience that for themselves. Like, spoiling the puzzles ruins so much of the game, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, all we can promise to listeners and viewers is that if you play Baba Is You, you'll be a genius and you'll feel enlightened, I guess.
Or
the epiphany of the century.
You will feel like the opposite of a genius.
Yeah,
Those are the two options.
There are so many times where I'll finish a puzzle and be like, damn, I'm so smart, I'm never going to get stumped in this game again. I get it now. And then the next one I'm just stuck on for an hour.
It is a very easy game to overthink. Like, I have spent so much time on a single puzzle and then realizing, like, once I completed that, I was like, oh my God, I was going way too deep into trying to figure this thing out, and it was so much simpler than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Is it a stressful game to review, Kyle?
Yes. Yeah. Because it's one of those things where it's like, it's hard. It is a hard game, but it's not, but it's just the difficulty of it is just me sitting at my desk with my Switch on my desk, just like rubbing my chin, just being like, I gotta finish this thing. I don't know what to do. So yes, it is stressful. It's a weird, different type of difficulty compared to something like Dan having to review Sekiro.
Yeah, that's easy in comparison.
Yeah, just press square a bunch, or R1.
Hey.
I guess R1 would be better.
Right.
I'm at GDC and I want to talk about GDC. Can we start talking about GDC?
Sure. Why don't we bring Reiner in here?
Ooh, I like your thinking. Get out of here, Leo. Get out of here. Andrew Reiner, welcome to the Game Informer Show.
Hi. Well, this is weird.
Yes, I am a floating head in a jar for the video viewers at this point. I'm sorry. Reiner, how has the GDC news cycle been back home?
Pretty good, actually. There's some big announcements coming out. We got a new gaming platform coming, or stream or something.
I don't know what to call it. Yeah, writing up like our video impressions, which you can see on GameInformer.com or YouTube. It's like, I don't know what to call this. I just said, yeah, Google's big gaming streaming push here.
We can call it, when they announced it, my wife texted me and she said, oh, great, another place online to buy video games. So let's just refer to it as that.
A service.
Yes, a service. We should dive right into this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, the way they describe it is the data center is your platform. Like, okay.
You probably
rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, that goes over the head of everybody.
Yeah, it was very exciting being in that room. Like, just having the entire industry packed into this room, or a lot of people from the industry, and just no one knows really what's going to be announced. It was a fascinating vibe. Everyone just trying to process what was happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's just exciting for Google to be stepping into that field. Like, just like regardless of what the announcement ended up being, like Google taking a legitimate step into video games is exciting and interesting.
Yeah, it's always great to have more companies involved, right?
Yeah.
In a big way.
So yes, this is Google's Stadia. First reactions to the name. What do you guys think?
I didn't like it at first, and then I started thinking about how it sits next to all the other names and realized that Xbox is still just terrible name.
Yeah. Has there ever
that never sounds right. It's just a weird thing to say.
I think Switch is the only time I've ever been like, oh, I like that name.
Yeah, like even PlayStation, if you really think about it, it's like, that's kind of cheesy.
Names
but
or whatever.
We
That's fine.
adjust to them, right? We get used to them. So
yeah,
I think
it was a little bit
it works.
pretentious of Google to have that moment of like, oh, since the beginning of time, mankind has enjoyed play, and they show a bunch of stadiums and stuff, and then it's like, okay, I guess they're just really trying to shoehorn that in for the Stadia stadium connection.
When they started with that, I was like, do they know what video games are? Like, we're seeing everything but video games here.
Guys, Rise was not a hit.
Yeah. It was so much fun. Like, there was a Microsoft indie game event happening at the same time, and I went there pretty close to after the Stadia event wrapped up. And it was fun just like seeing these developers, like the after party developers or the people working on Void Bastards, which we have videos coming out for both of them in the future. But seeing both those teams like just react to like, wait, what did Google announce? Even like Microsoft employees are like, what's it called? Stadia? What does it do? Just like seeing so many people in the industry get like their gut reactions to what this thing is fascinating.
Yeah.
But Reiner, what was like the most exciting thing for you from that announcement?
Just seeing the game transition seamlessly from screen to screen. Obviously, nobody's ever going to have like 6 screens in a row and just move from one to the next. But if I'm playing a game at home and then I could just throw it on my phone with that weird little thing attached to it with a controller, we're all going to need like fanny packs for controllers, by the way, like to move that thing around. Yeah. But just that idea, like that's what we always wanted. That's what Switch kind of offered us, right? Like we could take our game on the go and continue it. And now we could do it on any screen possible. Like you don't have to buy new hardware. Like hardware sales are just going to plummet, right? Like old computers should be able to run these streams fairly well, right? Like maybe your resolution
really
isn't the
crazy.
best.
I like that they pointed out that we bought the crappiest PC we could just to test this out during the keynote. But it really was a moment halfway through where I felt my own hype rising, and it's like, man, I was excited for OnLive back in the day, so take everything with a grain of salt here, but I was just realizing like this could be it. This could be just an insane revolution. And when I started seeing them push like, hey, no more updating, no more installing, none of that stuff, it's like, that's very exciting. And then just that epiphany of, if this works, if it works well, I never have to upgrade my PC again. Like, I'm totally happy with that. That sounds amazing, barring it's $7,000 to get into Stadia, which I doubt it will be. But just like those epiphanies of like, oh, this could be a game changer if they pull it off.
Yeah, I have no idea how they're going to have people pay for this service, because I start thinking about like, movies, you have the box office where they make a ton of money, on the big screen, and then they go to streaming services, right? But games, you don't have that. Even TV shows, they have advertising. They're on networks. They move over to these streaming services. Games, if you just launch a new game on there and it's a subscription model, which everybody's kind of hinting at, how do developers make their money back? Like, especially AAA games, like if you're not getting that $60 and everybody's paying just $10 to $15 a month, how does that divide up with hundreds, thousands of other games? Like, I just don't get it.
Totally. The rumor mill going around GDC from some people who should be pretty in the know were like, I'm hearing it's not a subscription.
Okay.
And so,
how does
take that
play?
with
How does play begin then? Like, or how does that work? If you are watching a stream and you just click play and you're playing within 5 seconds,
yes,
does it just automatically charge you? Like,
no,
because it makes sense as a subscription, right? Like, if it's a subscription, it's just like Netflix. You just click play on something.
Mm-hmm. It would definitely make sense, and maybe that's just like, they said it can be down to 5 seconds. So maybe if you already own Assassin's Creed Odyssey and then you're watching a YouTube video for Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and then at the end screen it says, hey, play now, then that's technically 5 seconds to launch into the game. But the first time you do it, they didn't qualify. Maybe there is that gate of like, hey, pay $40 right here.
Well, I wonder, I mean, maybe it's going to be like, I don't know how interesting this sort of predicting is, but like maybe it's going to be like that Xbox Live PlayStation model where it's like you pay, I don't know, $5-10 a month for the ability to stream, but then you're still paying for the games individually, because like that's what Xbox Live is. You're paying to have online access, but then you're still buying the games,
Right.
Well,
Game Pass
maybe it's
is
something
different.
like that. Game Pass is a different service entirely. Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. I wonder if it'll be a hybrid of subscription and buying single games.
I don't know. Yeah, definitely the developer reaction, talking to a lot of developers out here, is everyone's a little bit shook of like, holy God, what does this mean? What does this mean for the industry?
Yeah.
And then also at the same time, people are like, how am I making money? But the crazy thing,
exactly.
But the crazy thing that I'm impressed by with Google is like they have set up so many meetings with so many developers. Like what I would consider, no offense to certain developers out there without naming any of them, like C- level developers. Google's like lining up meetings, like making sure they're on board, making sure they understand the tech. Like they are making the motions and going through the motions at least of trying to court as much of the industry as possible, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah. And then it just comes down to the tech if it works, right? Like, so on live, I kind of felt deja vu watching the Stadia event, because it took me back to E3 when I was sitting in that room when they announced on live. And it was a lot of the same talk, right? Like how you're going to interact and how fast it's going to be and all that stuff. But then it's like when the hands-on demo started, I went and played a racing game and I was bouncing off walls because of latency. And now I'm seeing reports, like GameSpot, Digital Foundry, Giant Bomb, like there's latency, like lag on the input for Doom, which is very noticeable. And this is a controlled environment demo.
Yeah.
Right.
And this is your first foot forward is showing that. Like that's worrisome. Yeah, that's very worrisome.
We were laughing this morning of like, are you sure Doom's like the one you want to put forward? There might be like an XCOM.
Well,
maybe.
I love it. I love how bold they are. Like Marty Stratton on stage. And,
credit to them.
Hey, what proof than Doom, baby? Here we go.
Yeah. I played a good bit of Project Stream, which was their sort of beta test of this service. I guess, like, I don't know. Is it going to be a lot different? I don't know. But I played a lot of Assassin's Creed Odyssey on it, and it worked better than I expected it to. It was solid. I probably played like a good half of Assassin's Creed Odyssey that way, and I would experience drops in like resolution, but it seemed like it was focusing on like gameplay. Like it would drop the resolution but maintain the frame rate. Like that was the trade-off it did, and it was pretty solid. Like I was overall impressed with it. At the time.
Say resolution. I think it's more compression. Like the easiest.
Sure. Yes, that's the better
it looks
term.
like
it starts it starts artifacting on screen, but like the gameplay was still consistent. Like I was still moving at the same speed, and like you know what I mean. Like they were just turning down the sort of compression is the correct term.
Right, which it's crazy because like, so many people, like Andy McNamara, I talked to him a little bit. You can see his reaction in a video we posted too, and he's a little bit more cautious about this whole thing. Like, if it works. But it's like, well, the proof's already in the pudding, at least for something like Assassin's Creed Odyssey. And like, Kyle, you played so much of that game, and like, maybe it's just I don't play enough multiplayer stuff, and I'm not focused on fighting games where that input lag is going to be crucial. But for stuff like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, a nice single-player game, which I would prefer to play anyway, would you consider this a reasonable way to play it, Kyle?
Yeah. I mean, I played, like I said, that is how I played Assassin's Creed Odyssey last year, was with Project Stream. And it was not perfect. Obviously, the best way to play is still going to be having the data like on a hard drive, whether that's a console or a PC. But it was I enjoyed the game, and I didn't feel like I was missing out on the total experience of Assassin's Creed Odyssey by playing it that way.
Right. It was so much fun to see like which developers went up on stage during this whole thing to feel like, oh, you were in the know the whole time. I just talked to you. Like when they had somebody from Tequila Works go up there, it's like, oh, I bet during that Groundhog Day interview on the podcast a while ago, they knew all about this project and they couldn't say a thing. But they went up there and talked about this crazy art style thing called Style Transfer ML, where you can basically just eyedropper any famous work of art and then import that art direction to your game, which is insane.
I don't know why you'd ever do that, but, if you're super bored.
I don't know. Because devs were saying that it was kind of a way to experiment with art styles first.
Right.
Yeah, but like I would hate for like there just to be a million like Van Gogh games all of a sudden. Like wait a second, these all look like Starry Night. What's happening here?
It's all gonna be goatsy games and stuff, just taking like horrific images from the internet and like here's the art style for a game. Blah de da.
Technologically impressive, but I'm not sure what the application.
It reminded
is.
me of entering cheat codes in games just to make them look different at times. Big head mode or change the colors, black and white, sepia tone. Whatever.
Did they have any big head mode demos? Because I would like to see that make a return.
I think that's a Friday appointment I have. I'm pretty excited about. No, the most exciting thing that I saw is just that epiphany that I'd never thought of before was the state share stuff that Dylan Cuthbert from Q Games, co-creator of Star Fox, for Christ's sake, he got up there and talked about it. And the idea of basically, the best way to describe it is like micro save states where it's saving all the data about your game, absolutely everything, and then compressing that into a link. And so I can just tweet out this very specific point in the game, and if people have Stadia, they can jump to this very specific moment in the game. I think that's so incredible, and I'd never considered it before.
Yeah, it's better than sharing a video clip of it, right? Like you can actually play through that moment yourself. That's such a genius thing.
Yeah, it's just insane. And like there have been rumors before for like that YouTube walkthrough idea, which also is incredible, where it'll just detect exactly where you are in the game and then pop up a YouTube walkthrough if you're stuck on a Rise of the Tomb Raider puzzle, for example. Which is also just an incredible idea. But it seems like to do that, you need to use the Google controller, which normally you can use any controller you want, they said, which is also amazing. But then you need the microphone on the Google controller for the Google Assistant to call out for help on the walkthrough, which is bizarre.
When I Google stuff like that, it's always hyper specific. So like when I'm talking to Google and be like, hey, Google, on level 3-7, after you're about like, I don't know, 10 minutes in, there's like this little ledge over here. Is that something? Like that's what my talking to Google is going to be like. Because it's never like big, broad, like, how do I solve this puzzle? It's like, where is this last collectible in this huge open world that I found the other 99? Where's the 100?
Oh, God. What do you guys think about the controller?
It looks, I don't like where the left analog is. I like the Xbox placement more than the PlayStation one. So right there, I was like, that was the wrong choice, but it looks nice otherwise, right?
It kind of looks like the Switch Pro controller a little bit in terms of shape, which is a great controller. So I think it looks. I haven't touched it. Have you had a chance to touch it, Anson?
No. I'm hoping to get hands-on at
you
some
gotta
point
play
here. I'd love to
Doom.
check out Doom and stuff.
Yeah. It looks good though. You know, especially when you look at other like third party, like other companies that have tried to make controllers like Ouya and stuff like that. It definitely looks a lot better than that.
Yeah.
Even the Steam controller.
One of the confusing things, obviously, like pricing, we don't know. They say it's launching 2019, which is crazy. Like I feel like this ate so much of Microsoft's potential thunder at E3 if they're pushing hard for streaming and their bold future. Because it'd be like Google just got the most exciting announcement of that revolution. But one of the confusing things was pricing, we don't know. And then also like third-party games feels like a huge avenue that they just haven't gone into yet. But the craziest thing was that keynote, like while people were just filing in up on the gigantic screen, and you can see this in the live stream too, they had like little icons that were like hinting at gigantic games like, Call of Duty and Skyrim and Madden and Friday the 13th, for Christ's sake. But then there was no announcement of any partnerships for the game side yet, which is really like confusing.
Yeah. I mean, we know Ubisoft is probably on board, but otherwise.
Yeah, and to what degree? Like, did they buy Doom Eternal? Give Bethesda a bunch of money to have that launch at the same time to make them get a certain amount of money back on it, or is it just going to be like Xbox Game Pass, where it's just all old games? It feels like a classic thing from third parties, right?
But it could be. But Reiner, think about this, because everyone's like, oh, it all depends on the games. We'll see what games they have. If Stadia launches in 2019 with what they hinted at with a bunch of cowboy imagery, Red Dead, and they have, because they talk about how powerful the GPU is with the system and all this stuff, if they have like the best looking version of Red Dead running at 60 frames per second that you can play on your PC at the launch of Stadia, it's like that is the killer app out of the gate. I know it's an old game, but having the ability to play Red Dead 2 on PC is going to be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that happened with Grand Theft Auto. How many years after it launched? They released it on PC and people went bonkers again, right? So yeah, I think Red Dead, anytime it comes to a new system, would be great. That would move away from that subscription model then. Like if they do have those big AAAs, you're probably just buying individual games. So it wouldn't be like Game Pass.
Yeah.
So yeah, that might work. After sleeping on it and thinking about it, I don't think this is like the next big thing. I think it's like, the way I look at it is like it's an alternative. It's a convenient alternative to games. Like Kyle said, like the best version of your game is going to be downloading it, having that perfect frame rate, having those perfect solid visuals. But, for convenience sake, you could take it on the go then and all that stuff. So I'm hoping there's like a hybrid solution. Like if I buy this game on Xbox, can I continue it through Stadia? Or, maybe that's Microsoft's solution. Can I continue that in the same way on my phone? Maybe Microsoft has the perfect plan of offering both. Right?
Totally.
Yeah, I mean,
if that's the case, that's game over for Stadia.
Yes, except I always just think about, and maybe just being in the room, being too swept away by the excitement there and stuff, but I just think about what they were pushing and the amount of people watching gaming content on YouTube. And if they give like YouTube partners a share of the cut, if they put this plug for Stadia on their end screen with that Play Now icon, just that level of constant advertising for this thing, it's going to be insane.
I mean, influencers, they've done sponsored streams before, but this would basically turn them into salespeople, if you really think about it, right? Like, and that gets super gross.
That's the Twitch problem that they were pushing for a little while ago, and it could get gross. There's so many gross hypotheticals here, but just in terms of seeing something new in the game industry, like I was fascinated by that keynote. I think it's incredible.
Yeah, and it immediately puts the spotlight, like on Sony. What are they doing? They've been very quiet. And that worked for them last time, right? Like they countered Microsoft by staying quiet for a while. That whole game trading thing was brilliant on their part.
Yes.
But
yeah, real quick on that note, I ran into Shuhei Yoshida from Sony at GDC here. So I asked him, of course, what he thought about the Google keynote because I saw he was there, and he said, "Oh, it's very interesting." And then I said, "So are you scared by it at all?" And he said, "It'll take some time, right?" Like that was his reaction. Like, all right, Shu.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what else are you supposed to say. Like, is he just going to tell you, "Yes, I'm terrified"?
I would be. I'd be scared S-less.
Yeah.
I mean, is it too soon? That's the big question, right? Like on live, like, are we there yet as an infrastructure to support something like this? Or is the best solution, like I just said, like having both, right? Like, just, dipping your toes into the water, so to speak, in this whole streaming future, whereas Stadia is going all in, Whereas Microsoft and Sony could still kind of keep their console generation alive, maybe 1 or 2 more generations, and then eventually move into that space when the infrastructure's there. Yeah. You know, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I love that hybrid idea. I love the idea of playing like Division 2 on my PC downstairs, where I have my PC, and heading up to bed and just playing on my TV by bringing, you know, some kind of dongle. Like that. I love that idea. Like, I'm super into that. Yeah.
Okay.
As far as a full replacement,
uncomfortable prediction time. Ready?
Yeah.
2 years from now, rank the success: PlayStation, Xbox, Stadia.
Okay. Like, who's in the lead in 2 years?
Yeah, 2 years.
Okay. I think. What were the choices again? Xbox, PlayStation, Stadia.
Yeah.
I think Xbox, Stadia, PlayStation is kind of my prediction. I don't think Stadia is going to take everything over. I think it's going to be an awesome alternative option.
I go PlayStation, Xbox, Stadia.
Yeah.
Okay. You think PlayStation is going to take the conservative route again, and the gaming community is going to lap it up?
Yep, and they will have. I mean, they have PlayStation now. They've already dipped their toes in those waters, right? Like, you know, that's classic focused, but I definitely see them kind of playing a similar card to Microsoft. In having both options. That's what I'm speculating anyway. Yeah. And I think that just really kind of, you know, puts cement shoes on Stadia a little bit.
I mean, content is still king, and PlayStation has content. Like,
and
they have the single player, like, first party games that everybody wants. You know?
The big thing, the most disappointing takeaway from the Stadia announcement was they announced this first party division. And you're like, yes, they're making games. Let's see something. And then they just walked off stage.
Yeah, they have Jade Raymond, worked on Assassin's Creed. She's at EA for a while now. She's heading up the first party thing. And so it seems like those are very early days. And a couple tech demos, which were pretty rough, but just kind of proof of concept. But I mean, 2 years from now, we'll probably start seeing some first party Google games, which I'm excited to see what they do.
Yeah. I mean, but God, you needed that on day one, right? Like, if you really wanted to impress people, like, having a game, a showpiece, an exclusive experience for that system would have been huge.
Yeah, that could still come.
It could come. E3, maybe they save it for that. But
if it had been hand in hand with the tech, like, that would have been huge. Yeah.
Yeah, they said they're going to announce more summer this year. So imagine at E3 they'll focus on third-party partners and then hopefully their first big IP just to see what it is. But honestly, if it's just third-party, I think they'd be okay getting out of the gate with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely the future, right? Like, streaming, like, it worked for movies, it worked for TV. We're going that direction for games. It's just, is the time now? Like, that
hopefully
United
our
States
internet is
infrastructure,
ready.
Rural America, like, will say no.
Right.
But, you know, technology keeps improving. Years from now, a decade from now, are we at that point? Maybe will Google stay in the game long enough, even if they are third, fourth, fifth in the race to really kind of build up kind of their own empire? Yeah. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's not ideal for large parts of the world. Google's aware of that, but I do feel like now's the time. And if Google, with all its GD money in the world and all of its power, can't make this happen, I don't think it ever will.
Yeah.
I feel like now is the time. If it doesn't work now, say goodbye. But it's crazy.
They have the resources. For sure.
Yeah, it's crazy to see the amount of hatred that's out there among, like, the hardcore gaming crowd, like people in the comment section, most likely for listeners and viewers here, right? Of people just being like, F this, I hate streaming, get this out of here, this isn't my game. And seeing that, it's like, there's still plenty of juice left. Yeah, if Sony wants to take that approach with the PlayStation 5 of saying, this is for you offline gamers, you know, I think there still is that oomph out there.
Yeah, and I don't think, the hatred's unfounded. I mean, it's like, if this doesn't work, technically, if there is serious latency, out in the boondocks, and like, no, don't do this. Like, it's not ready yet.
Yeah.
That's the big test that needs to happen.
I hear you. I'm a boondock man myself. I grew up out there, but it's just one of those things of like, well, then this isn't ideal for you. You still have other options out there. Like, you can still get the next Xbox, the next PlayStation. It's not the end of the world. But for so many people that have a decent internet connection, it's like, here's just another option for you.
Right. Yeah. And maybe that will expedite it. And it'll be a snowball. We'll see. Yeah, we'll definitely see. It's exciting though, right? It's I always like seeing new technology come online. I'm a little worried about the tests that have happened already, even in the controlled environment. You know, those are red flags. But man, if I could just click play on a screen and start playing, or like Kyle said, like play Division, say goodnight to my friends, and go up to bed and, you know, do some side missions there, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Reiner, you're gonna have to start using keyboard and mouse. It's right there. You're gonna have to start using it, man.
No,
Literally
man.
selling a controller.
Exactly.
Your Wi-Fi.
Damn it. I guess you're right. Other stuff from this week at GDC.
Oh, yeah,
is
other stuff.
You guys. No, there's other stuff. You haven't seen it yet, but there's a big Nintendo Indies Direct that happened yesterday, which was very bizarre being at GDC because like we walked into this really small room, and then it's like Kirk Scott and Katie Casper from Nintendo are up there giving the intro to the Direct. And then they just play the Direct and stand in the back of the room. It's just like this weird vibe where they're making jokes in the video and it's kind of that Nintendo level cheese. And it's like, it's weird that they're just watching our reactions to their jokes in this Direct. But it was interesting. There are a couple of highlights. First of all, hey guys, guess what game is coming to Nintendo Switch?
I don't know. Just tell us. There's
Red
a million.
Dead Redemption.
Cuphead.
Really?
Oh.
Okay.
Wow. I thought that was like a Microsoft exclusive.
Well, it came out on PC.
It was, yeah. And so Microsoft, or in Nintendo in the video, they had a cute line where like, thanks to our friends at Microsoft, like furthering all conspiracy theories about those two really getting into bed together.
They're getting close. I think their relationship status on Facebook is complicated at this point.
Microsoft fans have to be so confused right now by what's just going on with first party stuff. Like,
yeah,
it's just
absolutely.
they keep announcing new studios, but then it's just like, here you go.
Yeah, but hey, Cuphead Switch, that's awesome. I'm into that.
Yeah, coming up April 18th this year, so
pretty soon.
Other stuff, Kyle, a new Double Fine game was announced called Rad.
Oh yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Right. It's roguelike, right?
I didn't get that sense. It was just like a quick trailer, but yeah, it kind of just looked like isometric brawler where you're mutating because it's all this post-apocalyptic world.
It's post-apocalyptic. Yeah, it looks interesting.
Yeah, it's directed by Lee Petty, who did like Headlander and Stacking and stuff.
Cool.
Like he's one of my favorite directors at Double Fine at this point, so I'm super excited to see what that's like.
Yeah.
Let's see other stuff. My favorite game there, I got to play it a fair amount as well, was Katana Zero. Have you guys seen Katana Zero? It's a little bit looks like Mark of the Ninja at first blush, but just super tight, slashing your way through these environments, working your way through stuff. But the cool thing is side perspective 2D. But the cool thing is it just gets bizarre. Where after all these missions, you're then going back to your apartment, like this ninja's apartment, and then like watching TV. There's dialogue options. You then start every morning going to a therapist and like unpacking through dialogue options like what happened the night before in the mission, because your therapist is also giving you dossiers of your next objective and stuff. So it's like this cute, bizarre, more story-focused perspective on some really tight action as well. But I'm really looking forward to Katana Zero. Yeah. And then probably the biggest announcement, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm here.
How would you feel if I told you that Crypt of the Necrodancer is coming to Nintendo Switch?
I'd say I'd be surprised that was the biggest announcement, but that's exciting.
Okay, what if I told you that halfway through the trailer for this, they start subtly playing techno remixes of music from Link to the Past?
That's pretty cool. That's cool.
So this game is called Cadence of Hyrule, Crypt of the Necrodancer featuring Zelda.
So they're going all in on like Zelda music, like the whole game?
Not only Zelda music, Zelda environments, and you can play as Link or Zelda.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a bizarre hybrid of Crypt of the Necrodancer, which is like music, rhythm, adventure,
it's a
roguelike with Zelda.
It's a strange game, and it's okay. That's cool. I like that. It's kind of like Star Fox and Starlink, where it's just like pretty much the main experience. There is the Crypt of the Necrodancer game there, but one of the main reasons you're playing is to like experience another Nintendo property.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, it's cool that Nintendo's letting an indie team like that tackle something as important as Zelda.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm excited about that. I'll play that.
Although Cadence of Hyrule, you could do better, Nintendo.
Yeah,
Song of Storms.
Yeah.
Hey, Leo here in the
like
booth.
that.
Tempo of Time.
Oh, they did it.
Man.
You did it, Leo.
Get that man to the treehouse.
Good job, Capcom.
Other stuff, we saw a game called NeoCab that was there. Kim got to play it. I was watching her play it a little bit. It's from like some former Campo Santo folks, but it's an interesting game where you're going around, very story focused. You're making dialogue options as you're in this cab in the future, picking up different customers and getting to know them over time. They all have like these story arcs. There's a lot of mysteries and stuff. You also have in the sci-fi world, oh, hang on, I wrote it down. It's a very silly name. Something called a feel grid, I believe, which like tracks your mood. And so then like it affects what decisions you can make along the way. But it's somebody who worked at Twitter is leading this project, then went to Campo Santo to rig up like their dialogue tech. And now he's just making a game all about basically dialogue options. But Kim seemed really hot on it, so it seems interesting. That was NeoCab. Other things that you see, you guys, that is very specific to this podcast is I went to an entire panel on designing games for the Amazon Alexa.
Did you learn anything?
How many people were in attendance?
It was like maybe 1/4 full.
Okay.
It was so strange. They had people up there, and the tone of the entire presentation was like, "We don't know. You tell us what to do with this." It was so funny to have played all those games on the podcast, and then just like let's see what the experts have to say. And it was a lot of just little offhand comments of stuff, just like, "This could be the next big frontier," but quote, "We don't understand what it can do yet." Like,
okay, hold on. Hold on. We have rank them: PlayStation, Stadia, Xbox, Alexa. The next big frontier.
Oh my gosh.
Radio dramas.
They say it's very much day one still. We need your help. And it was like a plea for developers, which is interesting. I'm like, there is cool stuff that could technically happen here. We just haven't found all the limits. But they showed some new game that's made by like the creative director from Elder Scrolls Legends. And it is called Saint Noir, and it's like a detective game that combines with like a board game. But
that's getting way too crazy.
What's that?
That's getting way too crazy. I just want to talk to it.
I just want to make jokes to it.
I mean, it
also,
just
they
needs
talked
to
about,
be...
I guess their most popular game is a game called Yes, Sire, where you're like building an empire. So that might be one we have to play at some point on the podcast.
We got to check that out.
Okay.
Just choose your own adventure books, audio version. Like that, it's slam dunk.
They did that. They demoed it. Yeah, they talked about the success of. They have the literal license of Choose Your Own Adventure.
Oh, really? Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, is funny just hearing all these folks from Amazon like make the pitch of the future of audio gaming, and their examples were like, people want to play games all the time, but now you can play with your voice. You can play games while you're grabbing cereal out of the cupboard. Like, what?
Okay.
Then their other example is like, when you're playing a battle royale and you see this character with a wild looking skin run right past you and you say, I've got to have that skin. I can't wait another millisecond. Now you just say, hey, Alexa, buy me that skin. Like, what? In the menu. Like,
what a weird
4 minutes.
What a phrase. Alexa, buy me that skin.
I shall have that skin, Alexa.
Alexa, bring me the skin post haste.
I should point out too that the CEO of Earplay, those games we've been playing, was up on stage, John Myers, and afterwards I went up to him and like shook his hand, and he's like, "Do I know you?" I was like, "Hi, we play your games on our podcast," and he was the nicest guy.
Oh, that's
like
great.
He was fully in on it. Like, look, that's exactly what we want from people playing those games, is to laugh and have the best time possible. He's like, we understand Codename Cygnus is dumb and silly. Like, it's a goofy spy game. Like, we're happy that you guys started laughing at it. So,
he listened to you guys play it?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and he was very sweet, and he pushed again for the idea of that Jack Ryan escape room game, which he says is extremely difficult and we'll have to take notes. But I think we should try it.
We got to do it. We got to do more of these because it's the next frontier of games.
Yeah, Alexa games, baby. Cool. Have I missed anything back home? What's the office been like?
A lot of talk about Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice.
Yep.
Did I pronounce that right?
I think so.
And then
Cork is back.
People addicted to Division 2. You know, that's the game right now.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys to dive in after the email section. I want you guys to just go deep. Treat it like a little mini game club over there.
All right, let's do it.
But for right now, Kyle, can we talk about Detective Pikachu?
We can, yes.
Okay. All
I've
right,
only
I'm
been
gonna
waiting
clap.
11 months.
All right, here we go.
What is happening? I'm here. Ben Reeves is here.
I'm here.
Kyle Hilliard's here.
I'm here.
The time-space continuum has been warping, especially because we're here to talk about something very exciting that we've been sitting on since what date, Kyle?
Oh, exact date I'm not sure, but April 2018.
People write in a fair amount to podcast@gameformer.com, our wonderful email address for questions and concerns and words of wisdom, and they say, like, what is the hardest secret to keep? Or what has been the hardest secret to keep at Game Informer?
Yeah.
This isn't near the top of the stack, but it's something that we've been sitting on quietly, which is...
I visited the set of the Detective Pikachu movie in London in April of 2018.
So you knew what these Pokemon looked like well before they were revealed in that first trailer.
Yeah, before the trailer, before even art assets had leaked online.
Yeah.
One of the first stops when I visited the set was into this big room where they just covered the walls and all their concept art. They had some final renders for Pokemons. They had big cardboard standees of what some of them would look like. And it was weird. Like, that was a weird way to see how these Pokemon were going to look the first time.
And it's pretty close to what we've seen in the trailers.
Absolutely, yeah, like that realistic version, yeah.
It was gross AF. Okay, so hang on. Lay out this saga. So, what, we get contacted from the creators of the Pokemon movie or the Detective
Yeah, it
Pikachu?
was
How does this happen?
Universal at the time, because now the movie has moved over to Warner Brothers. Which
Oh,
makes
really?
So even when I saw it, it was like a different...
Studio.
Studio, yeah, it's not a publisher. I only know video games. But yeah, they reached out to see if we wanted to check out the movie, and we said, yeah, that's sure, that sounds interesting. And then, like, it was in the discussions leading up to it that they were like, by the way, like, you know, you won't be able to cover this for quite a while, which is very strange for us at Game Informer, because, like, our deadlines are usually like a matter of weeks at the longest. So to be sitting on this feature that I eventually wrote for the magazine that you'll see in the next issue for a year has just been bizarre. Like, we have issue meetings where we're like, oh, someday Kyle's gonna write that Detective Pikachu movie feature, and it's been weird.
This hard-hitting scoop. Yeah, it's such a weird embargo for so far in the future. It's just I guess that's the film world? I don't know.
I guess so. But to get to the actual trip, so they were shooting in London, and it was the 61st day of a 75-day shoot. I talked to the actors and producers. I didn't talk to Ryan Reynolds. His involvement in the film, it was in pre-production and now post-production. So he wasn't actually there on set.
Okay.
And he wasn't available to talk to, which is a bit of a bummer. But I talked to the Justice Smith and Catherine Newton and the director Rob Letterman and the producers and the visual effects people and stuff like that. Yeah.
So how long were you on set?
Just for a couple hours. Like, I went in the morning, and I think I was out at 3. Like, I ate lunch on set. So I got to have, like, Hollywood catering, which is pretty exciting.
Is it good or is it catering?
It was fantastic.
Is the movie
It's
good,
really
or is it catering?
Is the movie good?
Yeah,
or is it
come on.
catering?
I want to get
Just
into
answer the
all this
question.
stuff.
Yeah.
There was a fun tease. If you're a super hardcore Game Informer fan, you might have been able to piece this together, but I doubt it.
Probably
Which is at Extra Life, our big charity stream that we did last year. We auctioned off a Detective Pikachu amiibo signed by the stars of the Detective Pikachu movie. And we probably made some joke about, like, don't ask any questions. Ha ha ha,
Yeah,
here
I
we
think
go.
so.
But if you would have asked questions in the chat, the answer was because Kyle's on the set and he got it signed. Which,
We would have had to answer them too. So it's a good thing you didn't ask questions.
yeah, absolutely. All live streamed questions will be answered.
Yeah.
Which realistically, we probably should have saved that for this year until after
yeah.
the movie is
It
a
would have
big
done
hit
better,
in
I'm
theory.
If it's a big hit. We'll
Okay,
see,
but let's get to it. So
If you got that, send it back.
so we
Redo.
can resell it. Yeah.
Redoozy.
Okay, so tell us about the journey. So the first thing you see is this concept art room.
So the first thing I see, which I think is an interesting little tidbit, is that as I was walking up to the set, there were signs everywhere with the word Gumshoe written in the Pokemon font, which was like the code name for the movie.
Oh, fun.
But it was funny.
Does it work as a code name if it's in the font?
I know,
of
and that's the
iconic
thing.
brand?
The sort of the PR woman who was showing me around was also like sort of commiserating. I was like, this isn't hiding anything. Anyone who looks at this knows it's
That's
a
funny.
Pokemon. But then so I went to that concept art room and I talked to the sort of designer for a while, and like I said, that's when I saw the Pokemon for the first time.
So this is the person that designed
Like
or
this-
adapted them to the
Yeah,
big
I mean,
silver
it's a
screen.
big team of people, but like
Yeah.
he was working on sets and stuff like that, which is interesting because like he said they said they started with like designing the movie for humans and then sort of adapted all the sets with the idea that Pokemon would be there. And he was actually complaining about Ludicolo, who is like he's a big wide Pokemon that's short and he works in a bar. And they said that like he was a big pain to deal with because they had to figure out how the sets would work with this oddly shaped creature sort of walking around, you know?
Because this is so early. All they've announced at this point publicly is like we're making a Detective Pikachu movie. And so you didn't know like what region is this?
I knew the cast, and that was like it.
Yeah.
And like so I learned about Rhyme City there. I learned that like Rhyme City outlaws Pokemon fighting, which is strange. There were teases like even on the set that Mewtwo is going to be in the movie in a weird way.
Really?
But like
was he like hanging out off screen smoking or something?
No. I'll get to it a little bit because it's kind of a roundabout way. But like so that's where I learned all that stuff. So to speak, you know, and then so after hanging out in that concept art room for a while,
I'm very interested in this.
Yeah.
What was the tone of the person? Where they're like, I don't know, it's a wacky Pokemon world. I'm doing this, I'm doing that.
No, he was excited about it. He said that like he's sort of like I guess he was like kind of like I guess you could say like a managerial position. He was kind of like in the upper sort of managing a bunch of artists, and his thing was like, I mean, he knew all the Pokemon names. Like I talked to him a little bit about his like history with Pokemon, and he personally didn't grow up with Pokemon. But he had clearly learned what he needed to know for the film, and everyone that worked for him, he said like everyone he hired like had an encyclopedic knowledge of Pokemon.
So this isn't a case like the Pokemon musical, which you did a special edition of the Game Informer show about a while ago, which you can find where no one knew anything about Pokemon.
Yeah.
And Reeves, you're here because you played and reviewed Detective Pikachu for us.
Reviewed it, yeah.
Did you play Detective Pikachu before this trip, Kyle?
A little bit. I didn't beat it, but I played like the first couple missions. Yeah.
Did you take it out there with you?
Yeah, I actually played on the plane. Yeah.
I'm curious to see how it goes, just like having played the game. And I like the game overall, but the movie looks good in a fun way. Like, and it looks like it's going to diverge from the game in some interesting ways too, which I'd love to talk about more after the film's out.
Yeah, because the game isn't. Or does the game take place in Rhyme City?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, and also
that game was over a year ago now.
Yeah,
so.
and it's talking to the producer. It was funny because it was like Pokemon Go was still huge at the time, and I even asked the producer, like, is Pokemon Go why this movie is being made? And they're like, no, not. I mean, it's great. Like, it's like helping promote the movie incidentally, but like they had been talking about trying to make a Pokemon movie for 5 years.
Yeah,
and it was the fact that Detective Pikachu is such a story-focused Pokemon game. Like, as far as Pokemon games go, Detective Pikachu has the most story.
It has such a weird, unique hook to it too, and like it has a character that's like weird and unique.
Yeah.
In the Pikachu.
Yeah, and
thank God.
So it was something that they could
finally.
latch onto to like actually write a script around. There were actually characters.
That's an angle. I mean, I don't know how much faith you want to put in Max Landis, but that screenwriter tells a story in interviews where he was talking about how he was working on a Pokemon movie for a really long time.
Yeah.
And then at some point, the Pokemon company said, "We don't want to give you every Pokemon. We're going to limit this so we have room to grow. So we're going to start out with just a one Pokemon movie, and it's going to be Detective Pikachu." And that's when he's like, "I'm out."
Oh,
that was his version of this.
Wait,
There's,
they didn't want to use any other Pokemon in there at
unclear,
all?
but they just didn't want it to make. They didn't want to make it like the journey of
Sure.
a Pokemon trainer or something. Like, we want to center it around one Pokemon. And he's like, "Well, that's not fun."
I know there's like going to be at least 60 different Pokemon in the movie. Like we've seen a lot of them in the trailers.
Yeah.
But they had a number that he said like around 60.
Okay,
you know?
all right. Let's keep walking through this. So you leave this room. That person seems cool.
Yeah.
And
then
go to
then I go to the set.
Yes.
Where they're shooting, and in the trailer there's a scene where Charizard and Pikachu are fighting in like an arena setting.
Yeah.
That's the roundhouse, and that's what they were shooting that day.
Okay.
So there's like in that scene there will be a moment where Pikachu falls and Justice Smith, who is playing Tim Goodman, has to like jump into the arena and catch him. That's the scene that I was watching them shoot. I'm right off camera when that's
Not
happening.
an extra or anything.
No, nothing like that.
Were there extras like standing around, or is it like digital Pokemon in that shot? I'm trying to remember.
All the Pokemon are digital, but there are
Yeah.
tons of extras. And
Okay.
like they're big, we'll see how it plays out in the final film, but the big push from the director and producers was like, we really want to try to get a lot of sets and on location shooting for this.
Did you
Okay.
get to see any of the special effects tricks they use?
Kind of. So they did a couple takes where there's lots of extras in this area, and they were like had sparks falling from the sky, which they kept having to reset and stuff like that. And then like between takes, there was like 3 or 4 people dressed in full head to toe like green leotards, and one of them actually carried like a full-size rubber Magikarp out into the middle and was kind of like pantomiming bouncing it around on the ground. And then
Hey, did it look good?
Well,
Like the Magikarp was just like some paper mache placeholder.
it was.
thing.
It looked good. It was like a rubber
Weird.
puppet, but that puppet will be digitally replaced.
Of course, yeah.
And then they also had like two Detective Pikachu puppets as well. One just looked really kind of like lame and cheap, but then they had one that actually had like fur on it and stuff like that.
okay.
And then they had this like pole that had a ball at the end that was like about the size of a basketball, and it had all like these like reptile textures on it that were orange. It was basically like Charizard. And so
So it
what
was
they
just a pole with a ball on
yeah.
it?
So what they did is like the Magikarp guy, the Pikachu guy, and the Charizard basketball guy like stood out in the middle and kind of like rotated their puppets around. And what that's for is for the animators to see like how the lighting of the set
okay.
reflects on
Right.
the textures so that they can replace everything digitally.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. That's interesting. Because I always think of like Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I don't know if you've seen any of those. Like,
I've heard of it.
behind the scenes things of like the crazy links they had to go to.
Yeah,
to get
swinging the
effects.
lamp. That's
Yeah.
sort of
Swinging the
idea.
lamp.
Yeah.
So like stuff like that, I'm always like fascinated, and it's probably way easier with like CG now.
Yeah.
But
It was so I didn't get to see anything finished other than like maybe a few finished like renders and like pictures in that room.
Yeah.
But I got at least a hint of like how they were sort of integrating the CG into the movie, and it looks good in the trailer. So
Okay, so you
it
saw
paid off.
several hours of this thing. Just on a base level, I'm curious what a film set like that is like. Is it quieter than you think? Is the director saying, "All right, now pretend you're excited about the match with your Magikarp out there"? Or like, what are they saying?
It was pretty loud, and it was funny because there was a guy who's dressed in like a Hawaiian shirt, who was like coming over the loudspeaker and making a lot of announcements.
Was it the
and stuff.
professor from Sun and Moon?
No. That was the thing. I was like, I was like, this guy kind of looks like a villain. Is he like the bad guy in the movie? But then I found out he's just the assistant director, and he was just like directing everything. But he was just dressed.
What the hell? I heard you say
I
that.
know. He was just dressed very strangely. Like, I guess, and I even asked the PR people, he was like, yeah, he has like an interesting taste.
It's called fashion, you jackass.
But like, I didn't hear Rob Letterman talk very much. I wasn't close enough to really see him like giving direction and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But it was a lot of like, I saw Justice Smith like doing these flying leaps. They had like a pad out that he was like pretending to catch Pikachu with. And there was a couple occasions where he was just on the ground like holding the puppet just to, give them
Crying
a
his
frame of
eyes out.
reference. That's right.
Wait, but you didn't hear? There was no blowhorn megaphone
the
thing?
assistant director was doing that kind of stuff. Like he was saying, like,
Okay.
"Oh yeah, activate the sparks and the smokes. Okay, ready, let's go." And then they would do the take, and then they would reset everything.
No fun Pokemon jokes? I know they've been filming for so long, so they probably got it out of their system
I
at that
didn't-
point, but...
what I saw, they weren't really doing a lot of dialogue. Like they were basically
Okay.
shooting an action sequence.
Yeah.
It was one thing that was funny, and this is probably just like a normal film thing, but there were people whose job was like literally just to shout down the hallway that they were about to do a take. So the
Yeah.
assistant director would be like, "All right, here we go," and then like, a couple feet away, he'd be like, "All right, everyone, be quiet." And then like another couple feet away, he'd be like, "All right, everyone, we're doing the shit." And it was just like this continuous thing that happened every few minutes.
God,
It was very
Hollywood's
strange.
dumb.
Yeah.
did you submit an application for that job? You're out there.
Yeah, I had one with me. I just handed it to the assistant.
Was there any point in the shooting that you think you might accidentally be in the background? Of one of the shots?
No, not at all.
You didn't just like throw a Pokeball into the middle of the shot and all of a sudden anything.
I asked the producer if Pokeballs would appear in the movie, and she pleaded the fifth and said she didn't want to spoil anything because I haven't seen any in trailers or anything.
That's an interesting
Yeah,
point.
that's interesting.
Yeah, Pokemon gyms, balls, and those were the big two that I was like, "Are we going to see these? Are we going to see these?" And
Yeah.
she was like, "I don't want to say." But then the one of the VFX guys said that we won't see Pokemon gyms in the movie.
Because they can't.
I'm not sure.
Because the city has weird rules.
But then Catherine Newton, who plays Lucy, because I talked to her later, and she was very adamant that I was like, yeah, there's a lot of like Pokemon stuff. Like you'll see like evolutionary stones and stuff in the movie, and it does. And she said it does acknowledge the wider Pokemon sort of universe.
the actress said
The
this.
actress said
She
that.
seemed informed.
She was a fan of the games and stuff like that.
Oh, cool.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, let's talk about the actors. What did
yeah,
they
so
say?
after we watched them do a couple takes, I went and talked to Justice Smith and Catherine Newton, and then Omar Shapiro, who plays a smaller part. He's like the guy that runs the underground Pokemon battle arena, which is
Okay.
the roundhouse. Like that's
Gotcha.
where it is. He had a big like fake Charizard tattoo on his chest and stuff. But it was cool talking to Justice Smith because he was really excited about it, and like he was talking about how Totodile is his favorite Pokemon. He was playing Crystal at the time. Like his girlfriend had bought him a copy of Pokemon Crystal recently.
On 3DS?
I guess I don't
Huh.
know. Maybe he had a Game Boy or something, but he was a fan of Gold, and he loved Pokemon Snap. Like he
All right.
he like had it.
Seems cool.
yeah, and he said him and his sister like had all the cards and stuff like that. He was like he likes Pokemon a lot, and was excited to be in the movie.
Okay.
And then Catherine Newton was similar. Like she was a fan of the games, but her big thing was like the anime. Like she loved watching the anime, and she said it even like that's what got her into drawing and stuff like
I
that.
thought you were going to say acting.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Performance from Jesse and
Wait,
James
you know
in
what's-
that anime.
You know what's
could
funny
do that.
though? We did talk about the first movie, and like Justice said that like the big Justice, like we're best friends now. I can refer to him by first name.
JS,
basis.
yeah.
He was saying that I mean he likes Pokemon and he wanted to be part of the Pokemon movie, but like he liked that it actually had like a legitimate story and wasn't just like a bunch of Pokemon. We'll see if that plays out in the final.
Are you
film.
saying the first Pokemon movie doesn't have a story?
Well, here's the thing that I'm getting at. He said one of the other reasons that he wanted to be in the movie was because he remembered watching that movie for the first time and tearing up when Ash turns to stone. And like that, and the movie's about like a son who loses his father. And he
Right.
said like that sort of overlap of like loss was like one of the reasons he was really excited to be in the movie.
Interesting.
yeah.
So the director also worked on, or he directed Goosebumps.
Goosebumps.
I can never remember that. That movie was fine, better than it should have been. What was it like talking to that dude?
So I got to talk to him the least because I literally had to talk to him between takes.
Yeah.
And
But he gave me a hard scoop. He said, cut.
it was actually just me like far away just hearing him. I thought he was talking to me. But I mostly like the big thing I was talking to all these people about was like their history with Pokemon. And his big thing was like his kids love Pokemon, and he was saying that his house is just covered in Pokemon stuff and that he has spent thousands of dollars on the Pokemon cards for his kids, importing Japanese Mewtwo cards and stuff like that. And they were like, and that was, his main incentive for taking the movie. And then the other thing he talked about was like really making an effort to try and make the movie like universal, like not just for hardcore
Well, they're
Pokemon
out now.
fans.
It's Warner Brothers now. So he failed.
Damn it, that was good, Reeves. I'm very impressed.
Move.
But he said that his big thing was like we wanted to shoot on a lot of sets and we wanted to shoot on location. They went to like Scotland and Shanghai, I think they said was the other
Really?
place they went. Like I saw some of the Scotland stuff in like concept art where it's like there's this like laboratory out in the middle of this like.
Oh, is that where
green
Eevee
lush.
pops out of in that
I
latest
think so,
trailer?
potentially, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
And the sort of and after all that, I talked to the special effects guy on a set that was like on the other side of the roundhouse.
Yeah.
And that looked like a dilapidated, destroyed laboratory. And it looked cool.
Ooh.
And even then I was like, oh, what happened here? And they were kind of teasing, like in the context of the film, like what's going on here? Why is this lab destroyed?
We're just bad at building labs, actually. This
Yeah.
is just our attempt at a fully functioning
Supposed to be
lab.
a new lab.
And I brought up Mewtwo, and they kind of were like, oh yeah, maybe, winky wink, And then we saw him in the trailer, so I was like, oh, okay, I guess I don't really have much of a scoop here.
Do film sets look like real things, or do they look they have this sort of Disneyland sheen to them or something? You know what I mean? Do they look fakey?
They look fakey, yeah, for sure. The Roundhouse had like both of those sets kind of looked, Disneyland-esque is kind of like a good point of reference, I think, for sure.
Huh. Anything else? Any other details that people wouldn't have learned from the trailers that you learned from the visit?
I talked to the producer and the special effects guy about Danny DeVito.
Oh, yeah.
And like whether they were aware of all that happening, and they were like, yeah, we totally saw all of that. And one of the things that they did, the special effects guys, like they had an early version of Pikachu that they were working with while they were still casting. And what they did is they would take like lines from old movies and stuff like that and animate Pikachu to it.
Like the old Toy Story thing from Turner and Hooch where they had,
Or like The Incredibles did that with the girl that played Vi as well.
Oh, sure,
Like
okay.
they took some for
Just for
NPR,
NPR,
stuff.
yeah.
And they said that Danny DeVito was one of the people that they tested. And
Did they say what moment?
They didn't say what moment. Like
Batman Returns? When he
just
bites
the most
nose.
average Danny DeVito performance. But they said it was really funny, and he said that they're hoping that they can release the tests like after the movie comes out and stuff.
Just
like
to
that.
make everyone so pissed that it's not.
That'd be-
And it's funny because they're very adamant. They're like, we love Danny DeVito. The producer even had this weird quote where she was like, trust me, the essence of Danny DeVito is in Detective Pikachu. I'm like, I don't know what that means. But
What? He also likes coffee and
Yeah.
swears. or
But it was
whatever.
basically dancing around the fact that it's like, yeah, I mean, if you can get Ryan Reynolds to play Detective Pikachu, like, you get Ryan Reynolds to play Detective Pikachu.
I was thinking
you know?
about this. Like, do they even need Ryan Reynolds? I mean, the brand kind of speaks for itself, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it'll make the movie funnier, for sure.
Will it? I don't know.
I mean, maybe. Yeah, Ryan Reynolds is a funny guy, but like in the game, he has a gruff voice. It doesn't sound like Danny DeVito, but it is like gruff, kind of old grizzled detective voice.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that is not the voice
No.
that Ryan Reynolds brings. So it's just interesting
Yeah,
that he is that character.
Another quick, just some of the because I got to talk to people that were working with Ryan Reynolds since he wasn't there, and the way they had him come in early and like read the whole script with cameras on his face to give the animator something, and then he worked with Justice Smith specifically for like 2 weeks, and they went through the whole script, and that's where they came up with like improvisations and stuff like
Okay.
that, so that Justice could like react on the day, when they're filming on the set and stuff.
But they're
like
not
that.
playing Ryan Reynolds' dialogue or anything.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't think so. I don't know how, because I know often they'll bring in actors specifically to do the lines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, I don't.
But
I don't know who
it
they
wasn't
got.
a dialogue scene. It was just like Pikachu falling.
Yeah,
so.
I didn't get to see just like one-on-one chats or anything. It was just an
Right.
action sequence where
Yeah.
I'm sure whatever goes in there will just overdub after the fact. So.
Yeah.
There's some point where in the trailer where he goes like Pika Pika or something, Ryan Reynolds does, right?
Yeah.
And for
Yeah.
like the longest time, it was like one voice actress and she was like legally obligated to play Pikachu and everything.
So you're saying just Ryan Reynolds even jokingly saying Pika Pika
Oh, it's just-
violates that rule?
It does seem like a first chance for somebody other than her.
Yeah.
I don't remember her name offhand, but
That's true. Yeah.
it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Hey, Hollywood Hilliard over here. Good God.
That's me.
Very exciting. Was it tough to keep the secret for that long?
It was weird. Yeah, because there were times where I'm writing stories for the site about like the trailer and stuff like that, and it's like, oh, there's a Mewtwo. What an interesting surprise.
Do you rub your hands with glee like he have secret knowledge?
Yeah.
I guess I don't know. It's
Disgusting.
just weird. It was very bizarre to be sitting on this for a year. Like
Yeah.
I have my notebook here where I just like I go through notebooks so quickly and it doesn't matter because like we write about stuff so quickly and publish it so quickly that I had to be careful to like not lose this notebook, which was very strange. But there's some stories on the site right now which cover some of the stuff we were talking about. But there will also be a big feature in the May issue of the magazine about going over there and checking it out. and
Very cool.
everything.
And what's on the cover of the May issue, just so people can look forward to it?
Can we say?
No.
No, I don't know. At the time, we're all in. Look, I'm
Almost
talking.
gotcha.
I'm talking about stuff I saw a year ago. You're not even
Right.
really here right now. You're at GDC.
I know, it's
very
confusing.
confusing.
Hey, there we go. You guys ready to move on to the next segment?
Yeah, let's do it.
Here we go.
And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm not, again, Ben Hansen. I don't know why you continue to think that, but we are here with the email section of the podcast. If you want to email at podcast@gameinformer.com, you can send us questions, comments, lists, games, dares,
Anything
truths,
that makes the show better.
anything that makes the show
Hansen
better.
says.
Are you listening, Hanson? Did we hit all the things that you needed us to hit?
Yeah, that's right. I'm calling you out for no reason. So just to start off real quick, we have more entries in the greatest works of art contest that we've been running for the past 5 years, it seems. Hold
on. What?
Cork
Hold
has
on. I have a question. This is just because Hanson ran. I was probably screaming in his car right now. Don't each week we pick the most interesting or best letter and then put the location where that person is from on
That's
the
right.
big board?
On the big board, we
the
do that.
big board.
Yeah. I was trying to save that as a side quest for later on. It was a little Easter egg. I was gonna
You're
throw in there.
welcome.
Also, Joe, Jeff, and
thank
Kyle
you.
are here.
That's right. Yeah.
Got it.
All right.
All right.
I'm your co-host, Joe Juba. I am joined by another co-host, Jeff Cork, and Kyle is here too.
Bringing up the rear.
The caboose, Kyle Hilliard.
Kyle Caboose, they call me.
Kyle Caboose Hilliard.
Throw another nickname on the board.
That's right. Chase Smith from Buffalo, New York, writes in and says the greatest work of art of all time is the Phantom Podcast fan fiction episode of the Blank Check podcast.
Okay. All right.
Someone's going to have to fill me in. What's this greatest work of all time business that's been going on?
It's self-explanatory. I don't know.
At some point, someone
mentioned,
someone asked what the greatest work of all time is, and people have been sending sort of their suggestions for what the greatest work of all time is.
the greatest piece of art, of all time.
And this guy says it's a podcast?
This guy says
The
it's
Phantom Podcast fan fiction episode of the Blank Check podcast, which I've never listened to.
I like Blank Check a lot. I don't think it's the greatest piece of art of all time.
I'm going to go out and say there is no podcast that is the greatest work of art of all time.
Okay.
Art has been around for too long
For podcasts to
and
enter
has
the
matured for
discussion?
in too many ways. I'm not saying that there aren't great podcasts out there and they and not that they can't be art, but I'm saying if you want that top slot,
You've got like thousands of years of human culture to knock off first.
This is
A podcast isn't going to
coming
get there.
from a guy who clearly hasn't listened to the horse boxing episode of Comedy Bang Bang.
It's very funny.
That's true.
I wouldn't say it's the best. The pinnacle of human achievement. And
Yeah,
all
you have
things
to try
artistic.
really hard if you're a podcast to be a work of art. Like you can have like an email segment where people send in their favorite suggestions for the greatest work of art.
Oh, yeah. We're an art aggregator.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a kind of art.
We're kind of curators.
Content aggregator is the greatest work of art. Noah Deckel from location isn't on here, but he says, "I'm sorry, gang, but everyone who has written in on this subject is wrong. The greatest work of art of all time has to be The Room. Never has a movie been so creative, so deep, so bad, and so good all at once. It's 1,000% up to debate and interpretation just how masterful art should be."
The Room's overrated.
I think
Okay.
it's The Wheel. Is
Yeah?
the best piece of art.
Okay.
That's an invention.
It's engineering.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, an invention. Like a painting is an invention. Like,
No.
ta-da, it's the Mona Lisa.
No. There's a difference between the wheel and an artfully constructed wheel.
No, The Wheel. Like,
Yeah, no,
Okay,
see,
fine.
that's
How
an
about this?
invention. Because you're saying, like, you're not saying the Mona Lisa, you're saying the act of painting.
How about
Right.
this? Harnessing fire.
Is that art or is that like
That's
the greatest
artistic.
utility
No,
of all
that's-
Have you
time?
ever gone to a Renaissance festival? They have those sticks.
Shut up, man. You're
Dominic
Going
from
down that road, we got to
Chicago.
go agriculture. The discovery of agriculture.
You guys are just, it's just things.
What's the most useful thing?
Let's just
Art
talk
has
about-
to be useful.
Aqueducts.
Aqueducts.
All right, let's-
This
There we
painting
go.
of this lady on this wall doesn't do anything for me.
The
What am I gonna
eyes
do with
follow
that?
you wherever you go in the room.
Okay. Dominic from Chicago writes in and says, "Dear Ben Hansen and podcast listeners, thank you."
Oh, you have to go to the
greatest-
next one. It's Ben specifically.
that's true. Only
Can't read other
questions-
people's mail, man.
That's
I think you're going to
should
get
I
in
have not
trouble.
done this?
Oh, boy, we're in trouble.
The greatest work of all time is Neon Genesis Evangelion. I'm sure someone will correct me. The show, the movies, the manga, everything except for the director's cut episodes because they were filled with bad choices.
Is that on Netflix yet? I have never seen
It's going to be, and then everyone will lose their minds again or whatever.
All right.
I'll watch it.
Has this person not seen the last two episodes?
Yeah, you funny-
Is that- well, no,
I
no,
haven't.
the person who wrote. Okay, no.
I walked into a museum.
Whoa, wait a minute. This is art too? I feel like an idiot.
We almost got a legitimate spit take. Like we were that close. You
really were.
Was crazy.
And it was hot, too. It's hot tea.
I appreciate that you reflexively didn't aim it at me too. Like you could have, like as a bit, done it all over me, but like you're actually a nice guy.
Leah, by the way, I'm not keeping track of who curses when, so that's going to be your job for this segment.
Great.
Okay. Mark writes in.
Leo in the booth is here also.
That's right. By the way,
That's implied. That's implied.
Benny Crew.
I'm going to do all these petty jabs at Surreal's hosting job by, I mean, Jeff Cork started it off with the big
Well,
man.
was just trying to
his
help.
I appreciate though. Like his was a genuine part of the show that I missed.
Good feedback.
Mark writes in to say, "I am a 63-year-old musician, composer, and gamer who says he has 4,500 hours in the Souls games and Bloodborne, which is crazy as me. And while I can't tell you what the greatest work of art is, I can tell you it isn't musical notation notes." He puts in quotes.
Yeah, that was something from like last week. Someone said.
Yeah. He said that the musical notation, basically,
Yeah.
the ability to
The
read
ability
music.
to
is-
write music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
okay.
saying that fire is
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
okay.
Yeah, we said he was wrong.
Here we go.
Notation was developed during the early Middle Ages primarily to allow church musicians to preserve their compositions and pass along their ideas to others. While notation is an elegant and effective means to an end, it itself is not music, and in fact there is a great deal of music that doesn't need or use it. Early jazz, blues, rock, and nearly all folk music from around the world has never relied on notation, and many of its greatest practitioners were and still are music illiterates. Keep up with the stimulating discussions, love the podcast, and never miss it. Mayo on grilled cheese blew my mind.
4,500 hours, by the way.
Yeah,
Did you
that's
really say that?
I think that might
there's
be the
an-
greatest work of art.
There's like
actually.
at least one extra zero, probably two
yeah.
on that.
So
Yeah.
45 hours.
If you would like
Four
to change
games.
your hour count, let us know.
Man, I don't. So I'm sorry if this discussion happened already, but did you guys talk about that as an analog to like writing and storytelling?
Not really.
Because like what he's
We're not
saying,
smart
what
enough
he's
for that.
saying there is that like essentially like books and writing wouldn't be art because they're just expressing ideas that you can say by talking.
Well, we were like, it's basically the creation
Of writing. Would
is
be the
kind of
analog.
the angle we were taking at. Like, is the being able to write out a word and showing it to you and you know what it means, is that art?
Kyle, you're not allowed to say that on the podcast.
Okay, this is boring. What's the next
Okay.
question?
I think that's it for this week. Now we're moving on to Japanese open world games.
Oh, yeah.
Which Ryan Burleson says it might be Nier Automata.
Yeah, so this is something from last week where I said there weren't a lot of Japanese open world games, and commenters pointed out a lot. I don't
Nier
know if
Automata.
Nier really counts, though, because aren't there, like, loading between areas and stuff like that?
It's still fairly open.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's fairly open. Yeah, but, like, people were saying Dark Souls. I don't really think Dark Souls is open world because you move between sections. Gravity Rush was one that a lot of people brought up. I
Yep.
think that does
That
definitely
does
count.
qualify for
How many
sure.
times did people write Yakuza?
That was what
Throw
we
that at you.
talked about. But even
Okay.
that one, aren't you like loading between portions of the city?
Hold on. I don't like I don't like this definition of like
Loading?
you can't be an open world if there's loading between areas.
I think it's about like just like squared off sections. Like to me, an open world has no like barriers to anywhere you go. There's no like door you have to walk through. There's no.
I feel like that's a modern convenience at this point. I feel like lots of open world games around the PS2 area probably had a lot of loading screens, more than we might have thought.
So is Anthem not an open world?
Oh,
I
no.
don't think so because you can't move between the forge and the city without going through a menu of some
Right.
kind.
I guess
Is that what it's called? The forge?
I think there are other arguments against Anthem as like,
Sure.
falling under that, but I don't think just like, oh, it has loading screens between these areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm simplifying it a lot, but like open world, like the definition I was going for is one where like you could start at point A of a map and walk all the way to the other end of the map without interruption of any
Yeah.
going into menus
See,
or
yeah,
anything
but-
like that.
It's bonkers.
Yeah, I just don't like that. I think that's a bad definition.
Okay.
Fine.
Let's fight about it, Kyle.
Moving on. Tyler Steele says, you asked last week for an example of a Japanese-developed open-world game. Dragon's Dogma, baby.
Yeah, that's.
Speaking of
that's-
which, do you
Yeah.
think Netflix's announcement of a Dragon's Dogma show indicates that a sequel is in the works? Why would they expand the universe of a 7-year-old cult game otherwise?
They did one interesting thing about that was that they said the director of DMC5 said that there was sort of basically he was faced with the choice with like he could make Dragon's Dogma 2 or DMC5,
Ah, he blew it.
and he decided to go with DMC5. Which, well, no, you know what? Like I love, for me, I love both of those series. So like
Yeah, those are rough
I win
purchases.
either way.
Yeah.
But the fact that like that was even on the table,
That's a good point.
I think that we're gonna see a Dragon's Dogma
Yeah.
2 at some point.
It's going to be so
I hope
fun,
we are.
hope.
Are you going to play that on Switch again, Jeff?
What? On the Switch?
Yeah, it's coming to Switch.
Dragon's Dogma?
Yeah,
No.
I will.
Okay.
No.
That'll be like my 4th time through the game.
Mike from Concord, New Hampshire. He's giving me a nice pronunciation guide, and I still messed it up. It's Concord, apparently.
Oh.
It doesn't matter where I'm from because this question will not win. Not only is it the best Japanese open world game, but Ni no Kuni Wrath of the White Witch is significantly proven to be the greatest game ever made. Scientifically, sorry, not significantly.
That's the first one, right?
Yeah,
Wrath of the
I
White
didn't
Witch,
play
yeah.
that one.
Revenant Kingdom is, I think, the second one.
Yeah.
that's a mistake.
Okay.
There's a typo in there somewhere.
Okay.
Or everywhere.
They added a couple extra 100 hours.
Tim O'Kip writes in and says, I instantly thought of my favorite game for this, Shadow of the Colossus. Bar the final area, you can explore wherever you want. Another one I thought was Gravity Rush 1 and 2, which Kyle already said.
Yeah.
And one I haven't played, but I assume is open world, is Xenoblade 2? I assume he means Xenoblade Chronicles.
Yeah. Yeah, Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is an open world.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to proper emails.
Finally.
Yeah, this one just the cutoff here says
Any other
hello,
old
so which
business?
doesn't help.
Old business.
This is just regular emails. Dylan Driver from St. John, Indiana says, so one time I accidentally saved over my brother's game file in the game Gladius, and because I felt so bad, I started a whole new game and played all the way up to the point where his game was deleted so he could continue his journey. Do you have any horror stories about having one of your save files deleted? Love the show.
That guy's a sweetheart.
We had a bunch of people over at my house for some Christmas party one time. So all the kids went downstairs, and this was several years ago, so my children were much smaller. And one of them came upstairs and was like, we can't get Lego Star Wars to work. And I had a save game for Lego Star Wars, the complete trilogy, or the original trilogy. No, it was the complete trilogy anyway. I basically was like at 98% completion.
Yeah.
I was like methodically working through it, and they deleted that save because they were like, "What?" At the menu it says like "Start a new save" or "Load it." And they were like, "No, are you sure?" Yes. And since there was a Christmas party, there was a lot of people there, so I couldn't pick up my children and hurl them through a window, which I really, really wanted to do. And I still think about that. It's just
They
like
really do frown on that.
it was a real bummer.
I have two. One, very recently, you may have heard of the show called Super Replay here at Game Informer, where we were playing through God Hand and Ozra's Wrath, and the PS3 got corrupted, so we lost our saves for God Hand and Ozra's Wrath. And I think, Leo, are we back up to Are we ready to rock on those again?
Yes, we are.
Okay. So I knew we got ready on Asura's Wrath, but God Hand, we basically had to have one of our interns, bless them.
Nathan Anstat.
Nathan got to play a bunch of God Hand and get us back to where we were.
Shout outs to
okay.
Nathan.
I mean, there are worse things you could be doing in an internship
Absolutely.
than sitting and playing an awesome PS2 game.
Yeah,
But
that's true. I shouldn't be so dismissive.
Kyle, do you have any examples?
and then hold on, one more.
Oh, sorry.
Is
Joe
really
had another
good.
answer?
Joe can have mine.
Okay.
I don't have another
This
one.
is now Kyle's story?
Yes.
No, actually, I may have even told the story in the podcast before. The short version is I had a Final Fantasy VI save on Super Nintendo at like 99 hours, 59 minutes, like maxed out. And I let my cousin borrow the game for a while, and it came back and he overwrote it.
Don't ever overwrite
So you guys
files
aren't
unless you have no
cousins
choice.
Yeah.
Always start on file
Yeah,
B.
so we're not cousins anymore. Yeah.
Fair.
You uncousined him.
Your strange cousin.
Okay, Kyle, what's yours?
I don't have one.
Okay.
That's why I was saying you could have
Oh,
one.
okay.
Ryan Clausen from San Diego says, "Hey Ben and the Game Informants, I have a game that I came up with that you guys should play. Which games between the pairs listed below are the most influential?" All right, so he's got like several examples here. It seems pretty self-explanatory.
All right, moving on.
Influential.
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 Not good. So if you like one game more than the other, don't let that bias influence you.
Gotcha.
All right. Hotline Miami or Shovel Knight?
Ooh, Hotline Miami.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, probably.
All right. Ocarina of Time or Super Mario 64?
Mario 64.
Mario 64. Yeah.
Street Fighter 2 or Super Smash Brothers Melee?
Street
Street
Fighter
Fighter
2.
2.
This game's easy.
Super Mario Brothers
winning.
3 or Sonic 3?
Mario.
Mario. I don't even know what Sonic 3 is. What is that
It's
one?
the, I
third
think it's the
Sonic,
third
yeah.
Sonic game.
Wrapped up the trilogy.
That's right.
There's the last Sonic game. Okay. Okay.
Call of Duty or Halo Combat Evolved?
Halo.
Halo. Yeah.
Ooh.
Influential.
Man, I don't know though.
If this were Call of Duty 4, I think.
But like Call of
For
Duty
multiplayer.
influenced Call of Duty 4.
Well, but Halo, like,
It nailed controls of an FPS
Yeah.
for console.
and
idiots.
it like created the Xbox. Like,
Do you
the
think that-
Xbox wouldn't exist without Halo?
My argument, assuming this is for, my argument is that I feel like, don't you guys think that Halo, like, even if Halo hadn't happened, do you think someone wouldn't have come along with like decent controls for a first-person shooter on console?
Well, yeah, I mean, Time Splitters came out
Versus
before
like
Halo.
Call of Duty 4, which introduced like this element of leveling up and perks and things like that that I think didn't have to have happened. That would be my argument, but I would still say Halo.
Yeah, I don't think Call of Duty would like the Call of Duty we think about today. I don't know that it would exist without Halo.
They should have been more specific if they meant Call of Duty.
I don't know.
that's true.
I'm going to say Call of Duty. I think that there's so much there in terms of like set piece moments in games.
ADS, getting down the sights.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
But the pistol in Halo, right?
And also just in terms of like length of influence, like I mean, I feel like Halo is sort of it is not at the height of its popularity or influence anymore, right? Whereas like Call of Duty is still just like a juggernaut every year.
Call of Duty has a dedicated grenade button, right?
Yes.
There you go.
All right.
Halo
Doom or
started
Quake?
Okay.
nice. Nice.
that. Thanks, Joe.
Checkmate.
Doom or Quake?
Doom or Quake?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Doom.
Doom.
Yeah, Doom.
Okay. Assassin's Creed or Call of Duty Modern Warfare? So you
Oh no!
should have
What?
read ahead.
That's weird.
I think Call of Duty.
probably
I mean,
Call of Duty,
Assassin's
yeah.
Creed is big and important, but I don't know if it
You can
influences a lot of other
You can maybe
stuff.
trace sort of like the modern, deluge of open world games a little bit to Assassin's Creed, but that's I think maybe a contentious history.
I see Assassin's Creed more as like a whirlpool that takes other influences into it rather than something that's like sending influence
and
out,
from which
you
light
know?
cannot escape.
Yeah, exactly. No, and that's nothing against the game. I think like Assassin's Creed is probably one of the smartest series out there when it comes to like incorporating good ideas and even putting its own kind of ownership on it. But it's not the sort of thing that I don't see that
It's no Call of
series
Duty
as
Modern
being like a
Warfare.
building block in other
Yeah,
series.
that's
Yeah.
a good observation.
Half-Life or Metal Gear Solid?
Man.
That's tricky. Man, I mean, Metal Gear Solid. I mean, there just isn't. Where
Like they're both important in the way narrative is delivered in video games, and they're two very different
Yes.
ways of doing it.
and in their own genres too, like
Yeah.
FPS and like where would stealth games be without Metal
I
Gear
feel like
Solid?
I would probably lean Half-Life because I think that there are a lot of games inspired by Metal Gear Solid, but I don't know that it's different but maybe it's not as influenced. I think.
I feel like the case for Half-Life is kind of the same case as for Halo, though, too. You know, it's like, well, it's sure an important shooter that lots of other shooters look to for inspiration.
Yeah, but I feel like just having the first sort of like being the first game where you can sort of see that, oh, it's not just about like running around. It's not just like this sort of like fast-paced arena thing where you're just constantly shooting stuff. Having this through line narrative, I think, is kind of like is a pretty big deal.
I do hear devs talk about Half-Life more than Metal Gear Solid in terms of like influence. Like I think of Sam Lake when we went on the Quantum Break cover trip. We asked him what his favorite game was, and he said Half-Life. And I feel like I hear developers.
Well,
talking about
look at the
Half-Life.
kind of games they make.
Yeah, like that's just one example, but I feel like I've heard other devs reference Half-Life specifically as like important to them more so than Metal Gear.
Okay, so we're agreed. It's Metal Gear. Next one.
Deus Ex or System Shock?
Probably
Deus
Deus Ex.
Ex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Jeff?
Deus Ex.
All right.
I mean, I think, man, there's like a line. There's a line between an influence line connecting those two, starting at Deus Ex, right?
Yeah.
So
I would say it's just like one is influenced by the other in this case. You know.
yeah.
Wii Sports or Mario Kart Wii? Probably Wii Sports.
Wii
right?
Sports.
Yeah, Wii Sports.
Unfortunately.
Okay.
Game's fun.
Avid Mario Kart Wii
I
lover.
feel
Joe
like
Juba.
Joe and I argue about Wii Sports like often for some reason. I
just
feel like
like-
it came up in the last
Hey,
couple months.
and what's weird is like, okay, it's a basic like fun game. It was important. I understand all that, but like, I just hate it.
Yeah.
I hate Wii
What
Sports.
do you hate about it?
It's not fun for me. It's not fun to play. I understand that it is for some people.
Oh, so you're always
I don't
getting
like
third
it.
place.
I think those games are fun.
Yeah.
StarCraft or Warcraft?
Oh, Warcraft. Right?
Yeah, one's,
I mean,
one's
well-
kind of a direct descendant of the other.
Yeah.
In this case,
I don't know. Well, StarCraft and esports.
that's true.
I
How
feel
about
like
Warhammer or Warhammer 40K?
yeah. Okay,
Minecraft or PUBG?
Minecraft.
Minecraft.
Yeah, PUBG is kind of like, I think recently I think it's been more influential, but
Ask us that
Minecraft-
question in 5 years, and we'll see how the
Yeah,
Yeah,
right, in
right.
5 years from now. That way we have guaranteed emails from 5
That's
years
very smart. Plant the seed.
when their show will still be around. Rock Band and Guitar Hero.
Guitar Hero has to be
Hero.
because
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
precursor.
Yeah, even though like, yeah, that one's kind of fuzzy, but I mean, it's Guitar Hero was first. Yeah.
Pac-Man or Rogue.
Pac-Man or Rogue.
I'd say Pac-Man.
Was it influential though?
Not a lot of maze
people-
games.
I mean,
came out
there
in its
were
wake,
in arcades
but-
at the time, but I mean that was like a subgenre that died out.
So
pretty quick
weird
as
because
that-
like I feel like Rogue wasn't even a thing. Like people knew the term roguelike before they
Knew what
before they
rogue
knew
was.
what the game
People have to
Rogue
look
was.
up. They have to Google
Yeah.
roguelike to figure out what Rogue is versus Pac-Man. Who's
why do they
just,
call it Rouge like?
Miyamoto's
that- it's like
Rouge
that X-Men.
agent.
Miyamoto cites Pac-Man as like a game
Roguelike?
that- yes, Rogue. Miyamoto's favorite game, Rogue.
Fallout or Final Fantasy VII.
That's another real tricky one.
Getting in the hot bathtub.
You know what? You know what? I think I have to go with Final Fantasy VII on that, partially because like I remember that as like really on the cutting edge of cinematics in games.
Yeah.
But Fallout was like important sort of to the Western RPG, right? The very choice-driven kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
I don't know.
I choose to abstain from this question.
That one's tough.
Final Fantasy VII was also kind of justifying PlayStation hardware in a lot of ways. Like this is not something that you could do if you did not have.
Well, and
The game on its
That's
own.
maybe another way it's influential in that it solidified sort of like Square's move away from Nintendo into PlayStation. I think if Final Fantasy VII bombs, there's a chance they might have gone back.
and it's also a proof of concept of like the 3D RPG. Not that there weren't 3D
Yeah.
RPGs before it, but I mean like that was the transition of this like huge genre in 16-bit to 3D, and suddenly it's like Final Fantasy VII just knocks it out of the park at the like. Yeah, I'm going with that one.
The Legend of Zelda or Super Mario Brothers.
Mario Brothers.
Zelda.
Boy, that's tough. Yeah.
Agree to disagree.
I think Mario Brothers saved the industry. Like,
Yeah.
I think Zelda's just a fantastic game.
Okay. GTA 3 or The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker.
GTA 3.
Yeah.
100%. I don't think Wind Waker's really all that influential, to be
It
honest.
influenced me to have a big booger blow up on my nose.
That's true. I'm changing my answer, actually. Space Invaders or Asteroids?
Space Invaders or asteroids?
Space Invaders, I think.
Both of those are boring.
All right, both boring.
Space
you've heard it here
Invaders.
first. All right.
Who won?
Name is on the other. Wait. Who won?
Yeah.
I was so okay. Hold on. I was keeping score. By a narrow margin, Suriel won.
Oh,
Nice.
Wow.
Congrats, Suriel.
Nice.
Nice victory.
Yeah.
Nice. Zane from Marble Falls, Texas says, people,
That's awesome.
I will actually donate $50 to the next Extra Life if anyone currently on the podcast table can tell me, unaided by Googling, what the term Mirror's Edge refers to in the universe of the game. What does the title mean?
The Mirror's
I think
Edge?
it's like looking over the edge, kind of, right? Like being.
A precipice of sorts?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I messed up. It's actually from Clay K from Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Oh, this changes everything.
Yeah, I don't think it's like an in-universe thing. I don't think there's like the Mirror's Edge Corporation or something like that. I played that game. It was a long time ago.
$50 is on the line.
Oh no!
You know what? I'd rather just wear a dumb hat.
Yeah.
Donate $50, I'll wear a dumb hat.
Is there an
P.S.
answer?
This is answered in the opening cutscene of the first game.
God, I don't
Nope.
remember that, man.
Does not answer that
I've
question.
never
so you'll
watched a
have to.
cutscene in a video game.
No. I've not played the Mirror's Edge games.
Brian from Oro Valley, Arizona says, "Hey Ben and crew, I have noticed that recent review scores of some single player games like Far Cry New Dawn and Trials Rising have been negatively affected by the presence of microtransactions. I think that it is fair to have microtransactions in free-to-play games like Fortnite and Apex Legends, but this kind of monetization feels gross in single player games. What do you think the solution is? I remember games costing more in the Super Nintendo and N64 days due to added production costs of the cartridges, sometimes costing over $70 for some titles. Do you think that we just need to increase the base cost for AAA games, have sponsorship deals with outside companies like sports games do, or some other solution? Clearly, game development is getting more expensive, but the current strategy of putting content behind a paywall or requiring endless grinding isn't a palpable solution. Side note, if you adjust for inflation, a $60 game in 1998 would cost $94 in current dollars."
Yeah, microtransactions are a weird thing. Because they're frustrating. You pay for a full game and it's offering you to buy more things. But then there's also a part of me that finds them very easy to ignore.
Just don't go in the store and buy all those little weird knickknacks or whatever.
And you don't want to encourage like game prices to go up there. It's already very expensive, you know.
Yeah,
But-
it's weird for like how much of a medium they've become of like, you know, there's this prestige to video games and they're like very influential, how much they're priced like toys a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Where it's like you can get the base set or you can get the expansion pack and there's all these little pricing things versus just like you go and buy a DVD or a Blu-ray at this point.
Yeah. I don't know what the solution is.
Because I think like no one wants to be the first game that's like $80 with the assumption that there will be no DLC that you pay for or like microtransactions. Because like, you know, what if you did that? Like, what is the argument for like, hey, we made God of War for $60. Like, what's your excuse for charging us $80 for this game?
And if the game was $80, what's to stop them from also having
Right.
microtransactions? Unless it has some kind of like
There's no law,
ironclad guarantee.
that says that that would have to happen. So I don't know. I think we have to do. We have to stick with $60 for now because no one's gonna be the first person to blink there.
This is one of those things. Like this question is essentially one of the like existential crises of the industry at this point. Like there's no good answer coming from these four knuckleheads here at the table.
We're gonna figure it out.
But like, well, no, because
Break out your calculator. We'll figure it out.
The correct price for a game.
And I don't want to diminish it, but I mean like there is no like quick or easy answer to that. The fact is that like gamers demand bigger and more complex experiences, which cost a lot more money to make. They cost more money to make as technology gets more advanced, and yet people don't want to pay more money for it.
Yeah. It's not.
I have no idea how you address or fix
It's
that.
a really big hole we've gotten ourselves into. Ian Goodger,
Sure.
from Cotton Heights, Utah, says, "Hello, crew. Do you ever feel the weight of having opinions that sway people to buy or not buy something, or do you feel pride in helping people find games that are good?"
This is an interesting one I've thought about before because like I don't know, for me anyway, I try as much as possible to like play games, like review games and write about them in a vacuum if I can, or sort of like basically if you let yourself get too far down that rabbit hole, you go kind of nuts.
Yeah.
If you're worried about like, who will I please or disappoint with this thing? So like ultimately and this maybe is not a great way to approach it for a guy who works at Game Informer, but like for me, I kind of write my reviews for an audience of one. Like I write them for myself.
I think the best you can do as a critic is to be honest and not sort of factor in sort of like, well, maybe someone will like this part of the game that I don't like. I think that's like a weird trap to be in because like it just leads to sort of you having like hypothetical opinions that are nebulous and not entirely relevant because like ultimately a review is what you think of a game. And like people are free to use that advice however they want.
Yeah, and you can only speak to your experience about it. So like I like the fact, there are a lot of us on staff who've been there for 10 plus years at this point. Like I like the fact that there are people who have been reading my reviews over that amount of time who are then able to be like, hey, Joe and I tend to agree, 80% of the time on stuff. Like I like that people can sort of feel some degree of like trust in my reviews in that sense, but like I try to not think too hard about the fact that it's like that
lots of people are going to sort of take your advice.
It has influence on like whether or not people buy a game, whether or not a game is successful. Like if you think about that too much, then it ends up just like not really being a good representation of your experience with the game and ends up having these like external things sort of swirled into it.
Yeah, I don't like thinking about it as like I'm writing for a shopper's guide.
Yeah.
Like, here, parents, should you buy the new Fortnite or
Isn't
not?
that leads to so many
Yay or nay?
conditionals of like, hey, if you've got $60, I guess you can buy it.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Leo in the booth.
Hey,
I just
Leo.
watched the opening cutscene of Mirror's Edge.
Oh, I was hoping you would do that, Leo. I was hoping you would do that.
Faith says that it's because runners exist on the edge between the gloss and the reality. You know how the super corporations cover up the dirty reality of what's going on in that world, so the Mirror's Edge.
Does she say Mirror's Edge, though, expressly?
Does she look into the camera?
She says ... the Mirror's Edge.
Does the title screen then pop up?
I don't think that's a justifiable explanation. I feel like that confuses me more than it actually answers anything. Zane from Marble Falls, Texas says, "Hey, Ben and fellow informers. So when a game like Anthem comes out with huge fanfare and high expectations, and then it doesn't even come close to living up to the hype, do you still play? Do you eventually go back and play games that didn't do well initially to see if they improve via endless patches? P.S. Mayo and grilled cheese is the greatest work of art of all."
I get to hear people belly aching about Anthem, for instance. We'll just say it like nonstop. Even people that are like think that it's okay and have put in time. It's just a constant litany of complaints, and it's just like, no, I'm good. I have no interest in playing a game that is in that state.
See, I do this sometimes. Actually, I went back to play Assassin's Creed Unity about a year after it came out, and I think Unity is probably one of the most infamous launches in terms of just like being buggy and problematic. And like I went back a year after it came out and it was good. Like Unity's a good game now. They patched out like technically stable.
People's faces stay on.
Exactly. There were a bunch of things that people hated about these little like chests that showed up in the world, but you needed to use the dumb companion app to make them unlock, and they just like removed that restriction, so you just go and unlock them like any other chest, and like so like I had a really good time with that game.
Yeah, I did the same thing with the first time, like The Division. I played it at launch and then just ran out of stuff to do, and it got kind of tedious, and then went back to it a year or 2 years later, and was like, wow, this is really, really fun.
No Man's Sky is another great example of this, where it's like I actually kind of enjoyed No Man's Sky just in its initial state. I know a lot of people had problems with that, but then I went back and played it after their first big like revamp, and was like, yeah, this is good. Yeah, I'm having fun with this.
I played Destiny for a little while when it came out, like the first one in 2014, and I ended up like it got too grindy for me, and then I said, I'm just not going to play it anymore. And then in 2017, when they had all the stuff in it, basically, that's when I went back and did all the raids and stuff and had a much better time.
Yeah. So I'm trying to get through the story.
Games.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what's that?
So I only play new games exclusively.
Oh, okay. I see we've got ourselves a snob here. Okay.
I'm looking forward to going back to Anthem. Like right now, I'm playing it. I'm wanting to finish that single player story, and then
run those loops.
I'm having a rough ride with it right now.
Yeah.
And I am looking forward to, let's say, going back in like 3 months or more.
Just to see, like, I mean, they have that big Cataclysm update coming. Well,
yeah.
It'll probably be worth checking out.
It's so, because like for some games, when they launch and they're a disaster, they just feel like an unmitigated disaster, and you're like, I don't see how this could get better.
Yeah.
With Anthem, at least, like the time that I spend with the game, on the horizon, you can see the game it could be, right? And I am eager for it to get there.
Yeah, hopefully
That's a really frustrating kind of being able to see that too. Like with something like Fallout 76, I just personally, for the type of game that I like to play, that potential is not there. Whereas with Anthem, like I said, in its current state, I am not interested in playing that. It seems like a fantastic waste of my time. But once they get everything figured out and people are like, hey, it's like Unity. It's actually okay to tell me when it's safe, Joe. That's all I'm saying.
All right, you got it.
Okay.
No pranks.
I just got a note. It's safe. Okay. Go on in, Jeff. Spend your money and time.
Play it on
Robert
Xbox
from
One.
Ogden, Utah says, "Hey Ben and crew, I was just thinking, what if Microsoft combines Xbox Live into Game Pass next gen? That way you don't have to pay an extra $60 a year for Live, and then it also helps sell more Game Pass subscriptions for Xbox and other platforms it comes to for $10 a month, just like Game Pass is now. Maybe offer 12 months for $100. Thanks for all your guys' hard work. Been listening since the Matt Helgeson days."
That almost seems like a foregone thing to me. At some point,
They'll
there'll be a tier option.
What do you think is the price though?
So it's $60 a year now for
Right.
Live.
And how much is Game Pass?
Game Pass is I don't know.
20?
I think it's like $10 or $20 a month.
Something like that.
So like $60 or $70 a year.
yeah, I think with Microsoft,
Or a month.
as time goes on, Microsoft feels like they're focusing more on services over like any sort of like individual purchases. So I could definitely see them saying like, hey, $80 gets you the all-in-one package, and this is the Xbox service now.
I'm sure it'll be a monthly thing. If Game Pass is $20 to add Live, will be 25 or 30 or something like that. A month.
Yeah, I could see that.
Unfortunately, we don't know the numbers.
No, not yet.
But it does seem that, I think Sony has some consolidation to do on that front too, in terms of like their services. Like you just need to make it all part of your, you just need different tiers of that one service rather than like the sort of a la
Multiple
carte
things.
feeling
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
What's the next first-party game that they have that will be making its simultaneous release on Game Pass? I remember it was like, is it Gears
it was
of War?
Crackdown was the last one, right?
Didn't they say Gears of War? The next one.
Gears
will
5,
be?
yeah, I think will
Yeah.
be their next
Let's
one.
assume it is
And-
Gears 5.
Yeah. It just seems like they have not done a really great job of having, like, their tentpole first-party stuff has been somewhat
Enough releases.
disappointing, and then it's been kind of scattered.
Yeah, I feel like they definitely need to figure out a way to get third parties on board for that stuff.
Well, and also,
More often.
Yeah. Because like right now, the third parties are really just a part of the like games with gold thing, right? Where it's like
Yeah.
when you have that, and then you just get a bunch of old games.
Yeah, they need to start. They could put all that stuff together for sure.
Yeah, and also for Game Pass, I feel like and I know that this is like a promotional thing, but when they have like, hey, start now for $1 or whatever, they really like. To me, it really diminishes the perceived value of this thing.
Game Pass.
Right?
Well, it must
Like-
be if it's only $1, it must be real cheap.
Yeah, I don't look at that and think, wow, that's a great deal for $1. I'm like, geez, if they can't even give this thing away if it's like $1.
Crackdown 3, huh?
Adam W. from Virginia Beach, Virginia, says, "Here's a topic I meant to write about when Let's Go Eevee Pikachu released last year and is now running through my head again after a comment Ben made last week about his frustrations with the hand-holding in Pokemon Sun and Moon. So here are my questions. How does Game Freak address the difficulty issue in Pokemon? Do we, the experienced and knowledgeable Pokemon veterans who desire a more challenging experience to the Elite Four and beyond deserve it? Was Pokemon more fun for me as a kid because I didn't know it? I didn't know how or if I was going to win the next battle. Smell you later."
I mean, a simple, easy, normal, hard option at the start would be good. I really want in most games, not even just Pokemon, but like most games, if it's like a sequel or like a franchise entry, I just want there to be like, hey, you want subtitles on? Have you played this series before?
Yeah.
Yes, no.
I've
And then,
thrown
like,
these balls before. I don't need it.
like adjust the tutorial for like I know the basics.
Yeah.
Like I wish that was incorporated into like
A little bit.
every game. You know.
Sometimes they change the controls a little bit, though. But not in Pokemon games, because they're very, very similar.
Yeah.
Cody Ingram from Seattle, Washington says, "I must thank you for talking about Wargroove so much. I bought it, and as a lover of Advanced Wars, I want to say I did not pick these emails this week, by the way.
Okay.
Do not regret it. I was sold the minute I saw you could have a doggo control your armies. This leads me to my question. Is there an indie game that was released that didn't get the love you felt it deserved, and with a proper marketing team, you think it could have been a huge success? For me, this game is Laser League. Such a phenomenal game with high potential for competitive casual play and plenty of room to grow within the game itself. Also, the greatest work of art is humanity, and if we weren't here to appreciate art, it would have no meaning. Thanks for your time, and I'll keep happily listening." Smiley face.
I don't know, I think one look at Kyle sort of refutes that last bit, right?
Oh,
Come on.
you've been
Who's the
burned.
artist that
We
made you
like to be
by the way?
positive about Kyle around. We're Kyle positive here.
Sorry. Cork? Just look at
Okay,
Cork.
positive.
Look at that dumb beard.
There we go. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
One indie game, I think it did fine, but I wish Iconoclasts had gotten a better I don't know, more visibility. Like I remember that they had the video game awards, and they had like best indie games, and like The Messenger was on there, which The Messenger's cool. I like The Messenger, but like I think Iconoclast like totally kicks that game's ass like up and down.
Yeah, I think my champion, the game I'd like to champion is Owlboy, just because I think it reviewed really really well. People who played it really liked it, but it seems like it just did not catch on the way. Like when I was playing, I thought, man, this is gonna be. People are going to be talking about this game. But
Yeah.
it ended up not
It
happening.
ended up being you.
Yeah, in our top 50 meeting, I remember.
Oh boy.
That was I said, oh boy, guys, I really want to.
You know,
Oh
like,
boy.
what's so weird about that, and there's sort of a sidetrack here, but he said with an ideal marketing plan or something. And what I think is weird is that like there's no way to predict. There's no formula for hey, if we'd given Owlboy more advertising, if it had a different marketing plan, like would it have caught on more?
Yeah, it always feels like anytime any indie title catches on, it's always like this huge surprise of like,
and how
the developers are just like, I don't know, it just really caught on. A lot of people downloaded this game on Steam.
Yeah, what makes Owlboy so or Iconoclast so different from like Celeste? Why did Celeste blow up? Or like freaking like Stardew Valley? By all, like, if you would have shown me Stardew Valley, I would have been like, this game looks like it is 100% for me, and no one will play this game.
Right.
yeah.
All right, if you're a game developer with a game that blew up, write in and tell us why.
So that you can share it publicly.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
all indie developers.
Travis from Goshen doesn't list the state here. Writes in to say, I am consistently amazed every week when I tune in for the show to hear the witty banter mixed with the ridiculous amount of laughter. I love listening to you guys. Now I listen to a lot of gaming podcasts, but what I find draws me to all of you most is the consistency of the team. What keeps you all together, other than the one terms that come and go? What keeps you all together on staff?
Interns?
Oh yeah, the interns that come and go. Yeah,
You need bigger glasses.
it says one terms, but
small.
Look.
All right.
It does say one terms. Yeah.
Here's what happened.
That's not.
Hold on. Leo's got an explanation.
It said a capital I space terms. And I took that as one terms, but they probably meant to say interns. Oh, dear.
Anyway, this guy's question seems
Wait. Hold on. Leo, you're a former intern. How would you not know what that word was?
Number one term.
I thought it was some editor thing.
He didn't want any other interns getting acknowledged or recognized.
I am the intern.
This is the kingdom of Leo.
He is our only video intern since and before.
That's right.
You know, there's
Our
never been
video
a-
internship, 100% success rate.
Yeah.
Anyway, what was the question again?
What keeps you all together, other than the interns that come and go? What keeps you all together on staff? How have you not killed each other yet? Is basically what he's asking.
I think it's almost like cheating in a lot of ways because environments and other jobs that I've had over the years, you kind of gravitate toward your people. And for me, at least, like games are a big part of like what I like to do. So I would find someone who like played games and talk to them about games and it'd be like, this is our thing. And then from there you form a friendship. And like here, you're deposited in a group of people that all share the same passion for the hobby that you like. So you're already like 2 steps ahead for forming friendships with everybody. Then you realize like, you know, this idiot has terrible opinions about stuff. He's bad to look at.
You can also find, like, depending on the games, that sort of still what you mentioned earlier still happens in a little bit of a microcosm. Like you go talk to the person who's playing the Division about the Division, things like that. But because those people change per game, I think it keeps people talking to each other regularly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that's true. And I think there's also something to be said about the fact that just like as an organization, we don't have a lot of turnover, right? So it's just like
I think the cost of living helps.
Oh yeah, it's cheaper in Minnesota than in California too. But like, I mean, let's see, Suriel, are you still the new guy?
Imran's newer than I am, but he's more senior.
Yeah, well, he's not, and he's also like not in our office.
Leo came in after me.
Okay.
Though technically he had
that
his first day was
one
before
internship
mine.
that he did.
All I mean to say is that like you guys have been here for like several years at this point, and to still be the sort of like new guys after that amount of time, I think just sort of shows that like with that just gives you time to like get to know people better and spend time with people.
For sure, like JV will post on Facebook like, "Hey, I've been a Game Informer for 5 years or whatever." It's ugh. How'd that happen?
I'm old. The other thing is, since we're in Minneapolis, we tend to travel a lot. So, people get out of your hair for a little while. You get a chance to miss them. Then
you also get a chance to spend a lot of time with people you travel with.
Yes.
Cover stories.
Oh, yeah, that's true, too.
Brandon from Appleton, Wisconsin says, "Hey, informants. So who is the a-hole that somehow invented the term anime is better subbed than it is dubbed? It is not better. In fact, it's way worse since you are always reading instead of seeing what's going on. Anime is always better dubbed, always. Anyways, what's your favorite video game character origin story? Mine would probably be Kratos, as his past was super effed up. Ciao."
By the way, I like dubs. I'm a fan of dubs.
That seems like one of those debates that the people who are there are people who are really into having that debate, and I think everyone else is just kind of fine to let them go.
Is it like the good guy pro wrestlers or the bad guys? You're like,
wrestling sucks.
There's I feel like the internet has fostered a lot of these things are like only marginally relevant to me, but because I'm on the internet, I'm gonna argue like passionately about the benefits of one thing over the other. Like subs or dubs, I don't care. No. So the fact that people are so like, you have to listen to this in the original Japanese. Like, I guess there's like a universe where you could care about that stuff as much as people do.
You have to create a barrier to understanding the emotion of what is happening on screen.
Exactly. I mean, and I'm sure this is one of the arguments in the debate. I mean, I think when you aren't constrained by having to, with a dub, having to say something within a certain span of time, I think there are times when the language will suffer, or you won't be able to say things in quite the same way because it has to be vocalized within a certain shot or frame or whatever. But if you have subtitles, you can sort of just say, "Hey, here's what that sentence is supposed to be."
Here's the meaning of what this person is trying to.
At the same time, I don't know that trade-off is greater or worse than there's just an ease of just going into something and hearing people talking about it, and especially these days, I think you have people, especially in games and in anime and all that, is you have, I think the sort of craft of voice performance has just gotten better over the years too. So it's anyway. So what was the other part of the question?
To continue on that, my answer is Sly Cooper.
Okay.
Your favorite origin story? Why?
Yeah, I love Sly Cooper's origin story.
What's his origin story? Why is he cool?
He has his whole family is thieves, and the first game opens with him basically being orphaned by the villains that you go after later in the game. They you watch your parents get killed from the inside of a closet, and then you go to an orphanage and find your best friends, and you get revenge.
Weird. I never really thought of Sly Cooper as a classic revenge tale.
It totally is. It's
just wait for the
it really is. I really do genuinely like Sly Cooper's origin story.
I
think it's cool.
I like Big Boss.
Yeah, Big Boss is good.
Big Boss was my answer, partially because it's not just. I mean, even with Kratos, Kratos is told over the course of a game, but sort of in little cutscenes. Whereas I really liked how Metal Gear Solid 3 is basically the origin story of Big Boss. There's something about that gets extra gravity gets added to it because you know where that character's going when you're seeing this story. So it's
it starts the slow transition of I'm an idealistic soldier versus I'm a sort of a grizzled mercenary.
Yeah.
All right. So Phil writes in this, again, no location. I was wondering what you think about reading your own interviews as on other websites. I read an article about Glenn Schofield wanting to make a new Dead Space on a German site, linking to the GI show as a source. Isn't it odd or unfair of others to use your work? And the greatest work of art made by humans, or better with humans, is the Austrian flag? The Austrian flag, because it's one word. In some battle, Duke Leopold V slaughtered many of his enemies, and they spilled their blood all over his white surcoat. When he removed his belt, it showed a white line, and that's how we got the red flag. On the second thought, this sounds really horrible. Maybe it's the worst work of art. Either way, keep up your awesome work.
Okay, what was the real question?
Yeah, I forgot already.
Isn't it weird or unfair when other people sort of cite our interviews on there?
I think when they cite them, that's exactly how that should work, unless they're reposting the entirety of an interview or a transcription of it. But pulling out an interesting quote from an interview and citing it and then sending people to the original
Yeah.
source is like a function of journalism just across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's aggravating when it happens to footage. I think that's like when video stuff happens and people just upload our videos basically on their YouTube channel.
And partially crop out the watermark.
That's right.
Oh yeah. I mean, all of that stuff is basically stealing. But
Yeah.
but when it's, I mean, a situation
this
like it is
interview-
like, hey, Glenn Schofield would like to make a new Dead Space. Here's a quick little quote from the interview. For more, go to Game Informer.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't bother me.
As long as it's proper citation, it's actually kind of nice. Like it's actually like, oh, I did an interview that had something interesting enough where other sites are picking it up. But
as long as they link back
it's
to us
cited,
and cite us for sure. Victor from Grand Rapids, Michigan says, "Hey GI crew, is the Marvel Cinematic Universe the Star Wars of this generation? Will it have as much of a lasting impact on filmmaking as that franchise did? Is the Avengers theme as iconic as the Imperial March theme?"
I think Marvel movies are weird because each one is almost like a different genre within the superhero genre. So you get like Cold War thrillers and comedies and everything. So it's not as cohesive, I think, as Star Wars has been. I mean, they kind of have veered into some other directions with the Solo and everything. I don't know that it holds.
Yeah, I'd also be curious to see what film directors think of like Marvel movies from a composition standpoint, where I feel like a lot of people take inspiration from the way Star Wars is like shot and filmed and edited versus I don't know what the lessons are there for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I feel like the biggest lesson of Marvel is how to string together a narrative between, multiple movies, which is not something that it's not like, one director is going to be able to do that over the course of, his entire lifespan even.
It's kind of like a mercenary approach to it too. It seems like they just keep throwing different directors at them and saying like, hey,
you do this one, you do this one, you do this one.
Include these elements, do whatever you want.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily mean this to sound like a dig against the Marvel stuff, but it seems like just such a very deliberately manufactured phenomenon rather than Star Wars, which feels like a more organic phenomenon.
Right, like the directive wasn't like, let's make a lot of good movies. Well, I mean, I'm sure they did, but like the directive there is like, let's make a series of movies that tell one story, so you basically have to watch as many of them as you can.
Right.
And it's also, I mean, Marvel is also an established franchise. It already had built-in popularity. Like Star Wars just came out of nowhere. It's like, whoa.
I mean, I'd agree. Like Star Wars today has a similar feel, right?
Yeah.
With Disney also at the helm and like the Solo stuff and the new trilogy and all that stuff. But I mean, if you're comparing like, let's say, original trilogy Star Wars, which kicked it all off, and like the Marvel movies, I think that there's just a very different kind of like intent behind them.
Also, the Avengers score is fine. I don't know. It doesn't do much.
I couldn't even
you're
tell you what
biased
it
against
is right now.
orchestral swells and
I've
things
talked
like that.
about it before. It doesn't do much for me. I love
Hate
Star Wars.
Spider-Man
What is it?
soundtrack.
I don't know.
Suriel, hum the Avengers theme.
I don't know.
that's Moon River.
Well, I mean, if you guys want to look it up and see if those two themes are the same,
I might have just revealed something special. Yeah, I don't know if I could hum the Avengers theme.
Yeah.
I think if you played it for me, I could recognize it. Be
I
like,
think
so I
was
think the
starting to
answer
hum
is
it, and then I
no on
almost
the-
hummed the Overwatch theme instead.
yeah. I mean, honestly, yeah,
It's basically bracket triumphant music.
yeah.
Okay, so I think the answer to that question is the Imperial March is more iconic.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba. Yeah. All right. Nick from Bothell, Washington
Singing Moon River.
says, "Hello, Ben and crew. I work at one of the big tech companies and recently reached out to another team asking them for a favor. Time was of the essence, and I frantically typed out the email, ending it with sorry for the inconvenience. However, what I actually wrote was sorry for the incontinence. Thanks to a lovely spell check error. I didn't notice the error till the reply started pouring in. I then fixed it in line, but the damage was already done. What is the worst email autocorrect spell check error you've sent professionally?"
I actually didn't have a good one. I just wanted to hear that.
Damn it, Joe. That's my strategy too.
That was also my strategy.
I can't think of. Just a lot of times when you say the F word instead of
Duck.
That's right.
What?
Like you.
Wait, like you mean to say the F word, but you say something else?
Yeah, like duck or whatever.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the duck is going on, which is a text I send all the time.
I've sent the email address is autofilled to be sent to the wrong person I've had that happen like once or twice, but it's always just
That's
like
awful.
Yeah, but it was thankfully the times that it happened, it was very much like
Not
it
like
wasn't a big
huge-
deal. It was just I just a quick send a follow-up email. I was like, oh well, that wasn't meant for you. I'm sorry if that was very confusing. You know.
Could you imagine if like Phil Spencer sent out like a very top secret thing like that and says, "Not meant for you guys. This press email list was the wrong one. Sorry, everybody."
We're just. I mean, the takeaway here is we're all very good at email.
That's right.
Yeah, we're professionals. We're professional writers.
Right.
We don't make mistakes.
Danny from Adelaide, South Australia, the city of churches, God's country, writes in to say, "Hi Ben and crew. So I was listening to last week's podcast, and my wife happened to be listening as well. We have recently had our first child, and by some miracle, I convinced her to let us call our daughter Hylia, Legend of Zelda fame. By the way, in case you guys didn't know,
Congratulations,
she liked the name, but hated that it might be mistaken and pronounced Hylia. I said that would never happen, as you do not pronounce words like hydrogen as hildrogen. When you were guessing the price of the Hylian shield, you pronounced the word Hylian several times and was never corrected. She gave me an evil glare, and I said, I told you so. If the guys from Game Informer can't get it right, what hopes does everyone else have? Come on, guys. It's Hyrule, not Hyrule. Anyway, love the show, and the greatest piece of work of art is the story of Stein's semicolon gate. If you have not watched it, go do it now. It's perfect.
Steins Gate. It's like a time travel anime.
Joe's got
I'll take your
something
word for
judgy on deck.
Nope, I just say Hylian.
Yeah?
Yep.
Hylian.
Okay.
Sorry.
I guess we stand fast. We stand by our statements.
Well,
for
no,
this
no,
podcast.
Kyle says Hylian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I say Hylia.
What's this human child's name again?
Hylia.
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 I will say that in this instance, Hylia, I feel like is a way worse name than Hylia, so I think it is crucial in this case.
You don't like Hylia?
I think Hylia is fine,
Because you know Hylia is like the first consonant of my last name.
but that RD ties it all together.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I don't know.
yeah, sorry.
Pronunciation's
are
weird.
bad, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Elmwood
Guy with
Park.
Goron. Have you ever heard anyone mispronounce that?
Colin from
Go
Elmwood Park,
Roan.
New Jersey says, "Hi GI crew. Which predominantly single-player focused game has the best multiplayer mode? For example, I was a huge fan of these in The Last of Us and Ratchet and Clank. Up your arsenal. Keep up the good work." Before Leo says it, I know that he really liked the multiplayer mode in The Last of Us as well. So
Hanson really liked the multiplayer tag mode in Driver San Francisco.
yeah, that's when I went over to his house and played it. It was surprisingly fun, considering that it came from some random driving game. So.
Mass Effect 3.
Oh,
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's probably I played a lot of that. I
Yeah,
played a
probably.
lot of Uncharted 2's multiplayer for some reason. Even though I don't know that I necessarily would say I really liked it. I played it way more than the campaign.
Well, there
I think I
wasn't-
just didn't have anything else to
There
play.
weren't many cover shooters then either.
That's
Like,
true.
Gears of War was really popular.
I
but there wasn't
remember-
really an analogy for PlayStation.
I remember really liking the fact that you could just climb on stuff, and it made sort of the battlefield a little more interesting. But I don't know that I actually enjoyed the shooting enough to really like it. All right. And Attack Corgi from Vancouver. Oh,
Another
sorry,
one,
Joe.
real quick. I just realized I had this is so dumb. Double Dragon on the NES, which I guess is only a single player game there. You play two player, but it's alternating on an NES. It doesn't let the two brothers go at once. Also has a two-player competitive fighting mode, which I just played the hell out of with friends.
Yeah.
Because you could
So
be
random.
Yeah, because you could be like a Bobo and Chin and all those other like everyone's favorite Double Dragon character in this like fighting mode in this game that is just commonly thought of as this like brawler.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. Sorry, go on.
An Attack Corgi from Vancouver, British Columbia says, "Hey guys, you each have one sentence to explain how the games industry will change by the time you're 80-ish, retired, and crotchety, but you have to explain it with phrases like, back in my day, when I was your age, etc. For example, back in my day, we didn't have none of this straight-to-brain download speeds or virtual jobs. We had real jobs, and we had to move our thumbs to play games."
Okay.
Joe, you should be good for this because you wear old people shoes.
I already wear. I don't like laces on my shoes. It's just a waste of time. How much time in your life have you wasted bending down to tie shoes in aggregate?
In aggregate, like 2 minutes.
Whoa.
I'm always tripping.
I do a very poor job.
Back in my day, video games were just a single thing and not a constant stream of information downloaded into your brain. You could keep track of it all. Damn it.
Huh.
I mean,
kind of hard.
This
You
is
have to
weird because, like,
predict.
well, looking ahead like 40 years essentially is like is tricky because one of them is like, well, back in my day, like you bought a game and you owned it, but we're already going away from that.
Yeah,
right?
I have a lot of those already.
Yeah, or like back in my day, we had to worry about hard drive space, which is like, oh God, give it like 10 years. We're not worrying about hard. It's all cloud.
By the
or
way,
whatever. By
so
then,
I can't preface this with back in my day, but one thing I'm actually kind of like worried, not really worried about in quotes, but like with it seems like subscription services of the future. We're gonna have like Netflix style video games, right? Like you're gonna subscribe to a service and like every month there'll be new games there. I feel like in that model, if that's the future, there will be less opportunity to really like embrace a game fully and like really love it and understand all its mechanics, because it will be too easy to just move on to something right after it. Because I think about like the way I watched Lost when it was airing on TV and how it was like my life. Like I loved that show. I love talking about it every week. I look forward to it every week. And then I compare it to like shows that I like that are on Netflix now, where I just consume them all in one sitting and maybe have like one conversation about it at work. Like Russian Doll. Like I love Russian Doll. I've kind of already forgotten about that show.
Just because there's so much else that you could be watching at any given point.
And so I feel like almost that like long form kind of like discussion surrounding video games is in danger of like evaporating just because people have too many choices and will be able to jump around too
Right,
easily.
but can you say that in a really smarmy, like a cracky old man voice?
Back in my day, I played one game at a time. There you go. That works, right?
Yeah.
Kirk, you got anything?
This one hits a little too close to home. No, thank you.
Sort of related to Kyle's point too. There's also the fact that, I mean, it's kind of like what Suriel said about games ending, but like it's not quite like right now we are still able to sort of have a concept of a game in totality, right? Like you can play all of, I don't know, like we just played Braid for replay, right? Like Braid, you can play start to finish, and not only is it over, but you can sort of dig into it and feel like you have seen everything it has to offer, that you know everything that you can know about it. Or you've done this with Fez also, I know. Right?
Oh, yeah.
But like, I wonder if looking ahead 40 years, like, are those sort of discrete experiences gone in the sense that like, hey, new patch adds this new stuff and blah, blah, blah. Like people, I know like achievement hunters and stuff already get mad when it's like, well, new content adds another like 250 gamer points that like now I don't have that nice clean 1,000 out of 1,000 on it. And you know, like
back in my day, we didn't talk about the Division 2 because that's still going is the joke there. 80 years from now. It's a very good joke. You just have to understand it, and I stand by it. Henry from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania says, "Sup, duders, if you had to choose one for your control scheme, would you rather have a block or a dodge?" Sekiro releasing next week made me think of this due to having both in previous From Software.
Dodge, because you can dodge roll across the world when you're not in combat.
Dodge
100%, because it just feels like you're an active participant when you're dodging. When you're blocking, you're just waiting, I feel like.
yeah.
All right.
Easy.
Blocking is like the brakes in Mario Kart, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to. You just want to drive faster.
Even, and I know some people hate this. 'Cause, like I feel like I'm in a minority of people who did not like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. But one of the things that bothered me in that game is that like it felt like it needed a dodge to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, you weren't very mobile in that game, but
Yeah, and it does technically have a dodge that you can execute, but it's not something that's like
not reactive.
Yeah, it's just
Very
not
specific.
in a way that like I don't know, like when they only give you a block. I think part of it is like because your character should be able to do it. Like I understand if you're like you can't say every game needs like some super double jump because like okay, I understand.
Gears of War is one thing, but like if you're Raiden, you should be able to like very quickly move out of the way.
I am a human being who sees a sword coming at me, and I should be able to quickly go like, whoa, nope.
Versus like,
But like
people don't block. As
when you
often
just
as
don't
they
get that
dodge.
as an option, it's frustrating. Yeah.
Vinny Brandino from Brazil says, "Hello, Benson, Beeves, Dak, Jojoba, and the rest of the GI crew. Quick question: would you rather watch a movie directed by Hidetaka Miyazaki or play a game created by Hayao Miyazaki? I feel like we've already seen what a Hayao Miyazaki game would have been, and that's Ni no Kuni, right? Like
I guess, but the
he
thing
didn't direct it.
So the answer to this question for me is definitely see a movie see a movie by Hidetaka Miyazaki because
Who's the Dark Souls
yes,
guy?
Yes, and Hayao Miyazaki created Princess Mononoke,
Studio Ghibli.
Yeah. The thing about him is like he hates video games adamantly.
That's true.
Violently. So I think his video game would just
But
be
what would a
awful.
video game made by someone who hates video games be like, though?
So Katamari Damacy. I don't think he likes video games very much.
You don't want to see another Katamari Damacy?
I don't know. Yeah, because that's all like Hayao Miyazaki is like such a it's all visuals, you know what I mean? And we have seen that in the game, but as far as like him like directing a game, I don't
I would trust the.
I think-
Go ahead.
I think you're projecting onto the question the fact, like, I don't think the question is knowing these people's attitudes towards these different these sort of media.
True.
Would you rather? I
Yeah.
think it's more like, would you rather play a game with the sort of Studio Ghibli aesthetic, or would you rather watch a movie with the Dark Souls aesthetic?
Gotcha. Well, I'll go the other way and say that I think a movie from Hidetaka Miyazaki would be like really creepy and weird and interesting and would be way less frustrating than any of his games. Like you could just take in the atmosphere.
Watch someone else roll around.
I mean,
Yeah.
kind of, yeah.
And
And
then
I
after-
love the atmosphere of those games, but yeah.
Then after you're done, you can go on the internet and then see what the story was about.
And you can brag that you finished it in an hour and an hour and a half.
It's just a series of scenes without any dialogue with like little like Easter eggs on the side saying this is actually what's happening.
pop-up video.
Yeah, that's really what it would be. It's just like pop-up video.
Oh God.
Going over dark tunnels and poison swamps.
A question for listeners: do you know what pop-up video is?
Yeah. Back in my day, we had pop-up video.
I love
Wait,
pop-up
Surreal,
video.
do you know what pop-up video is?
No, I don't think I do.
Oh,
okay,
such a
yeah.
child.
We're-
So
we're
on
too
VH1,
old.
they would show music videos. You know
Video
music
Hits One?
videos, right?
Yeah.
They,
I watched This Is America. Okay.
but they would play music videos and they would have little trivia facts pop up on screen and they'd make like little sound.
So
like
imagine
little
this is America with like funny jokes.
Yeah.
Superimposed over all the funny parts.
That sounds like it would enhance my
They'll
experience.
pop on screen and be like, spoofs of this were really done in poor taste,
Oh, so it's like
considering the context of the song.
It's like that thing Spotify does that always distracts from the cover art.
Yeah.
Chris Reardon from New Bedford, Massachusetts says, "Hey, GI Show crew, mayo and grilled cheese is yesterday's news. The real grid cheese hack is this: whatever kind of cheese you prefer, include a smear of cream cheese inside the bread." How do you think about that?
I'll try that.
A lot of gourmands. Our listener base.
Yeah. All right. No thoughts on that, I guess.
What do you want from me?
I want. I
rubbing
hate
his
cream
belly.
cheese.
I mean,
Get it away.
I don't know. Find out however just like normal greasy spoon diners do grilled cheese, which I think is just butter and Velveeta.
Now get out.
And then that's grilled cheese.
Yeah.
Logan,
Anything else on there, you're trying to puff yourself up.
Well, the mayo thing is an ongoing thing that we all need
Yeah,
to try.
yeah.
I haven't tried it yet. I keep putting it off.
Extra left, baby. Billy from Gloucester, Virginia says, "Hello all, I have a game for you. I will list some game titles below. Someone will read one title from their list, and the person to their left will have to name another game that contains one of the words from that title. Then the next person to the left will have to do the same for the last title said, and so on.
Gotcha.
You get 1 point if the title you say stumps the next person in line that ends the round. The new title from the list is read to begin the next round. If someone is stumped by the original title, yes, Cork?
Do articles such as a, the, and of count?
I'm going to say no,
Thank
but
you.
we'll see.
I don't think they should
A
count.
new title from the list is read to begin the next round. If someone is stumped by the original title from the list, no points are awarded. First to 5 points wins. Here's the catch. You cannot say a game from a franchise previously mentioned in the current round. For example, if at any point the title Super Mario Brothers is said, then every other Mario game is off limits for the rest of the round. Words such as the, and of are also off limits.
I shouldn't have interrupted.
The trick to scoring is to try to use the most obscure word from the title. I like that he's giving us tips for his game.
Yeah.
It may be tempting to use the word super and say the game Super Contra, but that won't score you any points, whereas saying the name Brothers and forcing the next person to only use that word will make it much more difficult to follow. It will be interesting to see what game ends each round.
Okay.
I will abstain from participating. I will use my host powers to just keep it between you three.
Okay. This is they play this. This is a kind of like, I don't know if you guys listen to the Doug Loves Movies podcast, but they play a game like this with movie titles.
Okay.
Does that help you guys understand the rules any better?
It does
Yeah.
now.
So
So are you prompting us, Serial?
Yeah, I have
Okay.
a list of titles here.
Okay.
Starting with Dino Crisis.
Okay.
Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII.
Time Crisis.
Clock Tower. Because it's time. I don't know. Wait. Blink's the Time Sweeper.
Leo, does that count?
No.
So, well, Blink's would have counted if I hadn't just tried.
If you hadn't
just
gotten
thrown
the
in
wrong
towel.
answer
Time
first.
Sweeper
Yeah.
is one word too, isn't it?
Yeah. Dang it.
Okay,
Oh, yeah.
so
So
Cork
Cork
gets
gets a
one
point.
point.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Cork?
Cork will do this. He'll start the.
Okay,
chain.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cork, your word is Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Solid. Metal Arms.
Ooh. Okay. Arms.
Okay.
For the Switch. Yeah.
Well, you didn't have to clarify that part, but yeah. Arms. Joe?
Brothers in Arms.
Oh, just son of a gun.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Kyle, your word.
Well, hold on.
Hold on.
So Cork can keep going, right?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
keep
that's
going.
Brothers. So his now is Brothers in Arms.
Brothers in Arms. Okay. Let me think. Well, Super Mario Brothers.
Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons.
Leo, are you keeping track? 'Cause I don't have a pen on me.
Well, there's something. Whoever loses, the person in front of them gets a point.
Right, okay.
Yeah. So Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, Joe.
Okay. Man, there's got a Tale of the Sun.
Ooh.
Oh, wait a minute.
No,
I get that wrong.
You got to tell.
No, because it's no. I get it
spelling.
wrong because
Right,
I think
so-
it's
so I
it's
get a point.
T-A-
So Kyle
it's
gets a point.
Tail.
So
Yeah.
it's 1-1 Cork and Kyle.
All right, now I start this
Now
one.
you start this one with Little Big Planet.
Which is one word.
Planet Coaster.
That works. Those are two words. Joe?
Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Cork?
Pizza Tycoon.
Kyle?
This is a detour. It's going to go on a while.
Actually, I don't. Okay. Hospital Tycoon.
I think you're not allowed to do them from the same series. Are these all different
that's
developers?
right. Yep. That does.
So
yeah,
wait,
you're right.
so
Joe
give
won.
Cork.
then.
Roller Coaster Tycoon was the last one, right? Because
Yeah.
Planet Coaster is different.
Yeah.
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 Right. So yours was the last one.
Yeah.
So we
I'm
each
the
have a
champ.
point. We each
I'm
have a
the
point.
champ.
Okay. Joe's
Okay.
turn for the game.
Joe, Final Fantasy.
game.
Ooh.
Final Fight.
Fight for life.
Fight for life. 25 to life.
Lifeline.
Is that one word?
Let's say no.
Okay. Lion Rider.
Okay. Line Rider. Let's see. God, there's got to be something.
5, 4, 3,
Wave Rider.
2.
Is that a game?
You can't just make up words.
I don't think it's a game.
No,
I don't.
Cork
Cork gets a
that
point.
Very confident we
Man.
presented that too.
Hanson would have said Sunset Riders so fast.
Yeah. He's yelling at his
Cork.
car radio right
Are we,
now.
is that good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Cork gets a point.
Okay.
Cork, by the way,
Yes,
your
sir.
word is Kingdom Hearts.
Kingdom Hearts. Let me think. Can you pluralize one of the words, or does it have to stay the same?
I think, you can. I would say I guess Suriel's the arbiter here.
You
I
make
would-
a decision.
Okay. I would say no.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
Because like technically,
Kingdom Under Fire?
Fire Emblem.
Breath of Fire.
Okay.
There's a really good one you could do.
Breath of the Wild?
The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild.
Oh yeah, that's right. Wild Arms. A lot of RPGs. Wait a second.
Man, we're back in that arms business.
5.
Oh, Metal Arms.
No.
Okay.
Metal Slug.
Ooh.
2.
Metal Slug 2, Devil May Cry 2.
Oh, no. That was not worth it.
Uncharted 2.
Okay, wait. This is very.
Super Mario Brothers 2.
Let's omit numbers.
Okay,
That's too easy.
So Metal Slug was the last one.
Yeah, Metal Slug. Let's stick with original title, please.
Dang it! Thought I found the loophole.
You
okay,
did.
Metal Slug. There's got to be something other than because we can't do
5,
Metal Gear Solid again, right?
4,
I'm vamping. Come on, give
3,
me some time.
2,
Gunmetal.
1.
Gunmetal's a game.
Is it?
I'm 99% sure
No,
Gunmetal
it's
is a game.
not.
Is Gunmetal a game?
All right, going to the judges.
Going to the judge.
Judge is going to his Google.
Consulting with the other referees.
And also, it would have to be 2 words.
It's gonna cut. Yo, you gotta save me here, man.
Going to decision.
Gunmetal, a shooter for the original Xbox.
Okay.
2 words?
That's right.
Wow.
Flight
Kyle,
Simulator.
you got so lucky there.
Okay.
No, I knew it was a game.
Okay. all
Okay,
right.
okay. My game is just gun.
Are we allowed to add or subtract words at this point? Like, aren't we just swapping out the words?
What do you mean?
Like removing a word to just use gun, right? That's totally within the rules.
I think that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a game title that uses one of the words in
Yeah.
gunmetal.
That's fair.
Isn't it an acronym though?
No,
No,
it's
I
the
don't think so. It's the name. It's the name of the thing you use in the game.
Gun.
This is harder
Okay.
than I thought it would be. The gun.
5.
Yeah.
It just seems like a dead end.
4, 3,
Gundam.
2.
Gundam.
My favorite game, Gundam.
Joe gets that point.
I think that's good.
Okay.
Well, who? So
We
Joe-
all win.
Cork and Joe are tied at 2, though.
All right.
Yeah, that's good.
Should they do like I'm out this one? They do one more round.
Oh, lightning
Sure.
round?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Here we go.
So I'm gonna. There's a whole long list here.
Pick a
pick a
good
good
one.
one.
Let's see. Let's try.
Pick one with with a lot of words.
Yeah. There's one. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
All right.
Oh, okay. World of Keflings.
World Heroes.
That bounced back real fast.
Kirk had it ready to go. He's like quick draw. Bam.
Super Mario World.
Oh, good.
So can you does the word super contain the same loophole as saying
I would.
2?
Let's.
No, I think you can do
super's
super
fine.
He mentioned
as long
super.
as you
yeah,
want.
I think he
Super's
mentioned
fine.
super,
What
right?
is the super rule?
It's a tip though. It may be attempting to use the word super and say super contra, but that won't score you any points. Whereas saying the game brothers and forcing the next person to only use that word will make it much more difficult to follow.
Okay. So it was what was the Super Mario Brothers? You
It's
said?
legal but not advised.
Super Mario World.
Super Mario World. Okay. I'm gonna say Super Turrican.
Oh god, now we're just gonna go back and forth.
Yeah,
on
I mean we
super
can do
all
this
day.
forever. I mean,
Let's
like
do it.
Super Tecmo Bowl.
Okay, then I will say.
You got it. You know what? Instead of 5, 4, 3, 2, we're gonna go 3, 2, 1.
Okay, if this
With-
is a lightning
with the
round and
super.
we're using super, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Super Metroid.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Joe, you're just doing the head.
Taking the high ground.
I didn't want this to go on forever.
Okay,
All
all
right.
right. Joe, Cork.
Fine.
Cork, nice
Wins our-
work. Good game.
Congratulations.
All right.
Good
The
game.
end.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
I'll take it. Thank you. You're the bigger person.
What do you guys like for email of the week?
Email of the week. I liked the one that was where we got 2 games and we had to pick which one was more influential.
I like that one as well.
Remind us of what we
had
talked
that,
about.
Marvel versus Star Wars question. Which one is more influential there? We got the one that Kyle mentioned about all the
Influential
different
games.
single player, microtransactions, and the cost of games.
Back in my day.
Back in my day, I like the.
I like back in my day.
You guys like Back in my.
I love. Yeah, it was better back then, frankly.
Okay. All right. Back in my day. There
we go.
Once
Ta-da.
I find the person who wrote this, because I got all my emails mixed up.
This is where your location unknown.
An Attack Corgi from Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. We are going to put you on the Brink board. I think is that Canada's first edition on there?
Oh, I think so. Yeah.
All right, congratulations,
did it.
Canada! You finally put a point on the board.
We call that a big board.
Yeah. Don't worry about it. That's fine.
Yeah.
I think if we tried to put it underneath one of your fingernails, you'd think, oh, this is pretty big.
Okay. Yep.
The metric.
Yep. I'm just being, in terms of as far as boards go.
Can we get a tiny curtain to cover it and unveil it every time? So it's like, let's see what it is.
And then zoom up on it real quick.
Yeah.
Make it seem
All right, thanks
very
for
large.
listening, guys. We have a hot interview. What was the interview?
The interview is with Game Informer staff, with each other, talking about The Division 2.
It's kind of a
That's
free-for-all interview.
Oh, boy.
Welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm Leo Vader, out from the booth, out here. We're talking Division 2, long form. I'm excited to get into it. Dan Tack is joining me.
Form. Yeah, I am here.
You're an endgame player?
I am. Me and the D squad have been doing some serious damage.
Very nice. Matt Miller?
Here I am.
Hello, what level are you, sir?
I think I'm at level 19 now, so I'm kind of like right in the middle.
Okay.
He's a teenager.
That's right. Just
And
the end of my teenage years. I'm still rebelling.
Andrew Reiner?
Hi, I'm a level 26.
Fantastic.
Close to the end game. Approaching my first stronghold.
Yes.
Excited.
Yes, they're great.
And you've been playing a lot too, right?
I am in love with this game.
All right.
I am in World Tier 2 now, so gear score hovering around 280,
Okay.
285.
Wow.
So we talked about this on last week's episode, obviously, but now that we've given it many more hours of our time, we're going to talk about our longer form impressions, which makes sense given it's one of those games that's supposed to last you your entire life.
I
Yes,
think so.
that's what they
That's
said. Yep.
Okay. So how are we feeling so
90-year
far?
plan Ubisoft laid out.
Yeah, exactly.
Might have been 90-day, but 90-year works too.
It will outlive us all.
This is a good game coming out of the gate, I think is the big takeaway for me. Like, it feels like it's a strong launch in terms of just offering a smooth onboarding process, some fun experiences to play with friends, and something meaningful to shoot towards right away, right? I think a lot of whether you're talking about MMOs or looter shooters or whatever, one of the big dilemmas is that a lot of times they launch and they're kind of just like, well, it's going to take people a while to get to the end game, so we'll just forget about that. And inevitably, 2 days later, there's people online who are complaining about that.
Yeah, out
So
of
we
content.
did find it. Yeah, I mean that's explicitly how I got to endgame. There's a workaround.
Wait, what?
If
You
you
cheated your way there?
if you've got friends who are World Tier 4, as soon as you get to World Tier 1, they can take you into their game, into World Tier 4. You won't be able to do anything. But then they can give you the eye level 450 drops.
Since you can share items with friends.
Because you can share items. So they just gave me a whole kit of, we did like 2 control points and I was fully geared 450.
So what level are you, like 5?
No, this is, you have to be 30 first.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Once you enter the gear score
Oh, God.
level.
Right. Once you're 30.
Okay, so you played normally through 30.
Yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
But then you sort of like boosted past.
Correct.
stuff
But then
once
I'm
you
just
got
like,
there.
no, World Tier 1 for me. I'm going right to World Tier 4. And you can do that.
Right. Strange exploit, given that items are level locked up to 30, but then afterwards it just
Right.
doesn't matter. It seems like a weird thing to oversee. Yeah.
And the action at that tier is pretty intense. It's fun. I'm wondering, yes, I mean, I didn't earn all that stuff, so it's a weird thing. But like, I'm just wondering what to do now. Like, we're getting points and we're getting crafting materials and we're getting points to our specializations. Specializations are really awesome. But like, I'm really looking forward to the raid and other high tier encounters that actually give cool rewards. Because like, as far as I know, there's no real way to farm exotics at this point.
I mean, to be fair, you did skip over
I did
a bunch
caveat.
of the
I did-
content that it made for you for the end
I
game.
did caveat that.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
Right.
But then you can't say, I don't know what to do. Because
I'm
you
not-
just
I'm
screwed
not
yourself
saying-
out of the fun.
I'm not saying there's not enough content. I'm just saying.
He's the only one among us who can report on what it's like to be 450.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's valuable.
Well, with an asterisk. Barry
Right.
Bonds over there.
It's in the game.
No, I know. I know.
But as far as I noticed, it was about an hour per level. So now that we're all 20 plus hours into it, are we feeling any repetition, or do we feel like it's coming along at a good pace?
I think the Division 2 has a very strong but very narrow play experience, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it's just the stuff you're going to do, the missions you're going to go on, there's not a lot of variety there, with the exception of what I think is some pretty cool environment design.
Exactly, yeah.
But it's not like some of the other action RPGs and looter shooters and MMOs out there. I think maybe do a better job of offering more variety to the kinds of activities that you're doing and the feeling of gameplay and the distinctness between the different styles of play. And at least for me personally, I haven't gotten that sensation. Maybe there's more of that with the specializations.
So yeah, well, the specializations are great. They sort of let you continue to level. So I'm always getting experience toward my next point, and you can swap specializations.
Yeah.
And then you can be like, I've got 80 of my points done in the Grenadier. I want to play a survivalist today. I'm going to start working on my tree there.
Yeah.
So you can work up all that stuff. You have plenty of points to earn anyway in that regard.
And to zoom out,
really cool.
you unlock those at level 30,
Yes.
and there's 3 of them.
And you get a special weapon with each one, a special sidearm, but I don't know if they're working right now.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I've noticed. Yeah, I don't know if that's completely working. That system is, but there's lots of other bonuses in those trees. You get special grenades for each class. You get special skills, like instead of a regular turret, my Grenadier, which is my main, can use the artillery turret, which is really, really sweet. You aim that thing, you shoot like bombs at the enemy. That's super cool. All the specialization stuff is really smart and adds an additional layer to endgame, so you always feel like you're earning things that are meaningful to a point, which is nice. And also, another cool thing about the endgame is just like when you're doing those world tiers, you're like, oh, I'm going to go beat a propaganda station and 2 other activities, and then I'm going to work this point up to 3 or 4. That way, when you beat it, you get the higher tier loot, and it's a much more challenging encounter, working those things up with your crew. The thing that's that I found interesting is the dark zones. I always had so much fun in Division 1 with the dark zone, and now when we go in there, there's nobody there because I don't know if the rewards aren't worth it. But we have been wandering around there for days looking for another soul to take on, and there's nobody in there.
There's nobody playing Conflict either. Takes a long time to get into the match and get into a match of the PvP mode, and I've seen maybe 1 video online of anybody playing it. It's just people are really focused on the PvE right now. We'll see how that changes as...
Yeah, back to the
Well, that's what happens when you
passes.
make a really solid end game, though, right? Like, people are spending their time there. They
are.
find that to be the most rewarding
I think
avenue.
what a lot of people are doing right now are just like grinding certain missions that they know have a rare chance of dropping one of the red items because there's only like a couple different missions you can do to get them, so they're just rolling them over and over again to see if they can get those special items. And I think they do a good job of reusing the old zones with the Black Tusk contingent and the robots.
Yeah, a new faction
Yes.
is introduced in the end game.
Which I almost don't want to spoil things about them because I was so surprised how much they changed up the missions. You're replaying the missions after you ascend world tiers, but they're totally remixed to feature the Black Tusk. coming in
Robot
from different-
dogs.
Yes.
All right.
All I'll say is robot dogs.
Those are interesting, and yeah, it's definitely more challenging. I notice it's way more challenging than Division 1.
Yes.
Like the enemies don't just say, "I'm gonna go flank them." They actually do flank you. And
Yeah, go ahead.
The one thing I'll say to your earlier point about how is it holding up, like I'm 40 hours in now, 36, 40 hours, something like that. Every firefight is really fun. And I think that comes down to the more aggressive AI where, yes, there are enemies that will kind of hunker down behind a block and you'll pick away at their head every time they poke it up. But a lot of times they'll be flanking or trying to find different angles to hit, hit you, as you're in cover. So you're really on your toes the whole time. And the gunplay that's along with that is solid. Like every weapon feels like it has a little bit different kick or range. You really got to kind of figure that out. And I think that just adds up to a really, really compelling and entertaining package.
And the
all the way through it.
The specializations actually help with that a lot because they sort of put you into 2 weapons. Each specialization has 2 weapons that they're really good at that you'll get big damage boosts for using after you put points in. So those sort of add an additional layer. You're not just like, oh, well, I got a 455 SMG and a 452 assault rifle. I'll use those. You're like, no, because I'm this spec, I'm going to use my LMG because I'm getting a 15% damage boost, which is very significant.
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing that Reiner and I were talking about a little bit earlier today in terms of understanding whether this game might be something you want to dive into is its perspective on solo play versus group play. You really want to play this game with people.
Right.
It's not a good... I really don't think it's an enjoyable game to play solo in most instances.
I kind of disagree.
I did the leveling process for me was a lot of fun solo.
Did you Did you do all of the missions by yourself, or did you matchmake with people?
I did all of them by myself. The solo missions.
Yeah.
As soon as I hit endgame, though, then I'm all squad all the time.
Then I'm a cheater.
What Reiner said, it was just the quickest way to get to the point where I could play with them.
My experience was that when I played this game solo, I did not enjoy it nearly as much as when I was
It's
with
certainly
other
a lot
people.
harder. It is.
Yeah, you don't have anyone to pick you up. You got to respawn.
Yeah.
You can call out, but no one's ever doing that.
Nobody's
That's
doing
another
that.
thing. Nobody's
Nobody's
coming to
calling you.
save you.
Yeah.
Like that's a functionality flaw in that game.
The one time I tried to call for help, a guy showed up like 2 hours later. It's like I'm done with this now. But hey,
Yeah.
nice to see you.
Yeah, you can plan for it a little bit when you're playing solo through
There's some-
abilities,
yeah,
like
sure.
having the revive seeker drone.
Right.
It will automatically pick you back up if you go down and it's available. So you can kind of plan for it that way. But I mean, any co-op game definitely gonna be more fun with friends.
And again, the enemies are really aggressive. They don't really scale back how aggressive they are in single player, so you will have constant flanks from both sides
And so
or
those
behind. Like they're all over the place.
those respawns, I mean, if you're playing the game pretty aggressively and being really active, which is I think the most fun way to play the game, rather than
Sure.
just like I'm gonna hunker behind this cover and always be like 100 yards away from the enemies and not really ever take any chances. You can play it that way and I think make progress, or you can get kind of up in the thick of things, but I think you're more likely to die at that point.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna die for
right?
sure.
And at that point, then your respawn, your suggestion notwithstanding, which I think does help, your respawn is like back a ways, and so you're kind of running back into the action. And some of those respawn points are not good.
Yeah.
And so you often will have these long runs to get back into the action. By comparison, if you're running through with 3 or 4 people, that's just not an issue. And there's a much greater sense of momentum to play when you're playing that way. Even as you're leveling, right?
It is so much easier for groups. Like
Yeah.
we've been trying to get lower level people into the clan, so we're doing that mission. You have to unlock that one character so you can even join a clan.
Yeah.
So like just the comparison, because when I sold that mission, it was hard as balls.
Yeah.
And then now it's just like, hey, grab a couple of agents and just blow that thing up, right?
Yeah.
Just tear through it.
Sure.
And I also, another interesting thing I found is like it's in Division 1, if you were behind cover, like good cover, you were never going down. You were never going down. And now they will rocket you and cocktail you and do all
And
kinds of
flank
stuff to you
you.
very aggressively. Yeah.
Yeah, I like how they can find like that angle. Like even if they're not completely behind you, which exposes them, they can find angles to pick away at you. And it's just like it's infuriating, but at the same time you're like, thank you for making intelligent AI.
Right.
Right.
You
I
know,
think
that actually functions like you want them to.
It makes it way more exciting. And I know people like, they think they've said Division combat is boring in Division 1. I think that definitely takes care of a lot of that. Like you have to be on your toes and thinking about the next piece of cover and the next guy you're going to take out at any time.
They really tightened the screws on it a bit. The way that healing works in this one versus the last one, it never comes back until you're fully out of combat. So you have to be tactically using armor kits, and you might run out and see one across the field, so you're running cover to cover to grab it on the way. That stuff becomes really satisfying. But the combat is at its best when it's challenging, and it's not always that challenging.
And that's to the single player strength, I would say, is I got great satisfaction out of completing missions by myself. Yes, I died a few times, and in the back of my head was like, okay, I wish I had a friend here to help me, like pick me up, because there was like one enemy left, the yellow enemy. But at the same time, when I did finish those levels, I was like, that's really satisfying. I did that on my own.
Yeah, I think later
So I think
on,
it works both ways. But you're totally right, Miller. It is built for co-op. I mean, that's when it's at its best.
It is so much of a better group game just because you can. It's easy. It's teamwork feels great, and you also like when I'm alone, I don't want to do anything harder than a propaganda thing or a public execution or any of those things, or like a hostage takeover. After that, like the other stuff, like get a few friends and make it doable and fun. It's so fun together. And then like if they get the drop that you want, they can just give it to you.
Exactly. That feature, sharing items, which is back from Division 1, I love how generous they are with that. Sometimes, too, it's detriment due to your rapid rise of gear score.
They should have thought of that.
Exactly. But I think largely that sharing items thing is so great to call out, I'm looking for something that's this brand in this slot, and then your friend gets it and gives it to you, and then you're just getting loot 4 times faster, essentially, if you're playing with a squad, if you're looking for specific things.
That's another reason why I like the group play, I think, the most in that game. I will say for people who are coming to this game having experienced Division 1, I mean, we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but I really think both movement and combat feel so much better.
Yeah.
The only exception to that is I still think their grenade mechanic sucks.
It's really slow to get those things off.
I can never throw them far enough.
It just doesn't feel. It doesn't feel good. But it's the only highlight point of like the moment-to-moment action that doesn't feel like it's made strides. I feel like in terms of traversal, they have made it feel a lot smoother to kind of get around, to get into cover, to get over cover. And they've also created environments that have more sophistication and more verticality.
Yeah.
And so you're doing a lot of times where you're like, okay, I'm fighting these guys. They're trying to flank me, so now I'm going to jump up on this truck and then leap into this window and attack them from there. And then they're going to find me there, and I'm going to leave the building. And I'm going to go down into the basement and take some pot shots. And so there's a really mobile nature to the actual engagements. And then just the feeling of the guns and the shooting and all that sort of stuff, I think just feels smoother than it did before.
Yeah. All I do is snipe. All I did in Division 1 is snipe. That's all I'm doing in Division 2, and I love it.
So you're as far back as possible?
Yes. Sitting there, shooting gallery style. And I've been very impressed by how each sniper rifle even feels so different. Between a Model 700 and SR1 or whatever, it sounds different. The speed is different. The way it pulls you out of the scope and then you bolt in the new bullet and then shoot again, I think feels really snappy and satisfying.
And that's another thing that I don't know if you guys already talked about, but the way that they overhauled the mod system for this game, so that once you unlock a weapon mod, you just have it forever.
Yep.
And you don't need to clog up your inventory with 100 different mods. And that's pretty handy.
Also, re-rolling mods or re-rolling buffs on items. It's all specific now, so you have something with the talent you want on another gun, and you destroy it and transfer it to that one. Instead of Division 1, you were just randomly rolling, so it feels a little more satisfying and deliberate that way, I think. What kind of play styles are you guys going with? Specific weapon types or
So
abilities?
I'm a weird hybrid. Like sometimes I'm like you, sniping, and then I also carry a heavy assault with that. So I'm more of like a mid to back range or far range, and then I have the hive set to armor healing. So the kind of radial, we have 2 people in front and 2 in the back usually, and then I have alternating between a turret or a drone as like support to just kind of distract enemies at times.
The drones are so cool. Just
Yeah, because you hit RB on an enemy, like, okay, you focus on him, I'll start attacking him, is a pretty good strategy. You feel like you're doing 2 things at once.
Yeah, that stuff feels great.
I have a lot of fun with some of the turrets and sort of medium to close range stuff.
The flame one is super funny to see in
hilarious. I don't know that it's necessarily the most advantageous one, but
there's certain environments it's great in.
Yeah.
There's some boss fights that are really tight quarters. That thing will just tear them up.
And you can switch it over. The sniper variant of a turret can really help a lot on boss fights. It's very specific use because you kind of need to manually select its targets.
Right. That one's interesting because you can toss it to spots you couldn't get to and then have it hit people behind cover that you couldn't see.
Right.
That stuff feels fun.
So that's been fun.
Have you guys run into this weird... So the enemies have these little remote control trucks with saw blades on the front of them?
Yeah, of course they do. Yes, they do.
But on Xbox, when I've been playing lately, those things will just like drive up next to me, not do anything, and then just kind of back away. And I'm just like...
They do that on PC as well.
I'm like, what... Are these things broken? Like AI? Is that the problem? Like, I don't understand what they're supposed to do.
At first, I thought it was just like a scouting bot because it would just sit there, like park next to me and just kind of look at me
and not do anything.
I mean,
tactical buzzsaws.
It speaks to a larger thing going on with the game, which is that like I don't want to talk too bad about the AI because I really like the AI in this game generally because of its aggressive nature.
When it works, it's great.
When it works, it's really cool. It notices things like it's not. You'll throw a grenade, and instead of just having the guys just kind of, oh look, it's a grenade, they actively respond to it, right? Which, while maybe it's more satisfying to see it blow up and kill 3 people, it feels a little bit more dangerous and exciting that you have to be careful with your placement and knowledgeable about how you're using it. Likewise, they move a lot. They find good positions to adjust to, and yet there's times that individual interactions, the AI is just super dumb.
Yeah.
Like they'll be right in front of you and just kind of like run between 2 cover points.
They're like, I don't know what to do. You broke me. I didn't know you were going to come up like right here.
So I don't know if that's a function of the fact that they went for a really aggressive and innovative model for movement and that sometimes it just kind of breaks down and that's maybe just the trade-off we get right now until they refine that system. It's not perfect, is what I'm saying.
I definitely agree. There have been plenty of noticeable moments where it's failed right in front of me.
Right.
Also, Uzis.
Get them out of there.
Yeah, I have not found one that has worked. Like,
Yeah.
they
I wish
just all feel
if they went
super
in the
weak.
sidearm slot, it would be perfect.
Yeah, that would actually be a good solution for those because it just seems like every time you get one, people are laughing. Like, I got an Uzi.
Yeah.
It's like, you're never going to use that.
Right. In general, the game's been pretty stable, right? Have you guys had any crashes or?
I've had hiccups in AI where an enemy will jump off a ledge and I'll be shooting at him on the ground and then he'll just warp back up and then come back down. I'm like, this is crazy, like poltergeist action. But that's about it. And every once in a while, just kind of a hiccup when I'm running or whatever.
Yeah, we it's actually helpful. I mean, I think we have the full spread of platforms here. I've been playing on PS4 along with several of the other editors, and we have had some crashes. So I don't know if that's platform specific, but just
I got crashed out of missions a couple times. Yeah.
What are you on PC?
On PC, right?
Okay.
But thankfully, it was good about rejoining. Like you could join back in the middle of the mission and not lose any progress. If my friend hadn't died, you pick up right where you left off, which was nice. But there have been some more game-breaking bugs that we should definitely address here.
Okay.
Did you guys notice your skills not working in that first week? They say they fixed it.
They fixed a lot of them. I did have for several days. It was like I'd throw a turret out and it would just instantly disappear.
Just sit there.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought there was enemies that were. I didn't know that. I thought there was enemies that were taking them out.
That's what I thought it was at first too.
It vanishes and goes on cooldown, and then it's like,
Yeah. They were just immediately going, or it would just sit there and not do anything. And I'm like, aim, shoot.
Yeah.
But we think that stuff's been patched at this point.
It has.
For the most part.
The last few nights I've played, it's been exactly what I've wanted, from those things. So
As people get to the end game, they're discovering more stuff. Apparently, for a lot of people, the specialization perks, if you switch to a different weapon and then back to your specialization gun, you lose all those perks until you fully respec.
Oh boy.
Like weird things like that still need to be ironed out, but I think overall it is starting in a great place.
in terms of stability of play, there was one mission we went on where we had to go access this terminal and it wasn't bringing up the interact button. So we had to reload it and do it again. But yeah, outside of that, it's been solid, especially compared to other games like it. Anthem.
At launch.
At launch, yeah. I guess Destiny was pretty solid at launch.
Destiny had
Just
other
some
problems
design
at
issues,
launch,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in general, I think people who were curious about this, I'd give it a shot. I mean, it's pretty cool. One of my biggest complaints about the original was that their winter New York aesthetic was exhaustingly dismal. I struggled after the first 20 hours of play in the Division 1 with just feeling like, man, everything feels the same in here. This isn't a world I feel like I want to inhabit for a really long time. And
Impressive.
I think their version of DC is much more vibrant. I mean, yeah, it's post-apocalyptic, terrible things have happened, ruined cars scattered everywhere. That whole thing is still there. But each of their level settings, they take advantage of their real-world locale. So you're going to a lot of like museums, and so you're like in the Air and Space Museum, and you see this like shuttle replica that's crashing down into the balcony, and moments like that help to distinguish the individual missions and their locations.
Yeah, very memorable.
And the fact that it's just a different season means that there's a little bit more color to things, and so it's a more habitable environment.
Yeah.
Planetarium for life.
Yeah.
The planetarium's really cool,
It's
right?
one of the best moments of the year, for sure.
Yeah.
That and that kind of NASA place, the space
Air and
place,
Space
And the
Museum,
where the lights go out. That's all I'll say.
Oh,
It's-
that
it's
one.
such a cool
the
moment.
Vietnam exhibit is also
That
very
was
cool.
awesome.
Yeah.
And you could just read all the stuff on the walls.
Yeah.
Like it's an actual exhibit you can just walk through if you want. It's crazy. I can't believe you just keep going to museums in this game.
There are a lot of museums in
I mean, to be
DC.
fair, DC has a lot of museums.
Yeah.
But it's a cool space to get to explore. And people who know DC well, I think, will be happily surprised by some of the little like nods they make to real world places.
Yeah, I want to know if that one place is real, like the
White House?
the subway with the ice cubes in it.
Oh,
you know
the,
which one I'm talking about?
yeah.
That is wildly cool. I'm like,
I went
wow.
down there and I was like, was this the wrong environment? Because I'm supposed to be in the subway.
Yeah,
That's a great question. Yeah. I'd
yeah.
like to know that.
That one I want to know about.
Leo, you should bring up one thing. We were talking a few days ago about secrets in the levels themselves.
Yeah.
And that ties in with the space shuttle.
Sure. Yeah, each main mission seems to have at least not just secret treasure rooms, but secret little backpack trophies specific to the mission that you can find. So in that space shuttle one at the Air and Space Museum, after the shuttle crashes, you can go inside it and get a little toy shuttle
That's
that you
cool.
can hang off the back of your backpack.
Yeah.
And there's all sorts of specific ones like that if you know where to look. It's fun, and I like that they're incentivizing replaying missions like that.
Yeah, you brought up one where you were like following a red cable,
Right.
and that revealed like a secret area you could shoot and open a door or whatever. Like that's awesome when you have like not only just these really intense combat arenas and like just beautiful architecture you're looking at, but puzzles along the way.
Yeah.
That reward you at the end of it. Right?
Even the shade caches. Well, I'll see one behind a fence I have no idea how to get to. I'll call my friends over and we'll kind of explore. Somebody says, "Oh, there's a way to get up onto this building. We can go up on the roof and then through here." And it's like solving this puzzle together.
Yeah.
Stuff like that has been really surprising
Yeah.
in this game and very fun.
I like finding like the paintings and stuff.
Yeah.
Just in random places.
Just George Washington sitting out on the street.
Yeah, perfectly preserved, just sitting on the
George
street.
Washington's
rain.
sword.
Yeah.
The apocalypse happened, but George Washington's sword is still here.
About Abe Lincoln's top hat sitting on a statue. How have you guys found the pace that they dole out the information as far as how re-rolling stats works and things like that? Has anything been confusing to you?
It was really overwhelming at first, just how much game was there. Like
Yeah.
it was like, whoa, there's the settlements and the projects and all that stuff. I was like, man, there's a ton. But then as you kind of get into your routine of playing, you just kind of start picking apart at it, here and there. You go back to the White House, do a few things. I think it was very smart in how they tied it to new characters being added to your home base.
Yeah.
And introducing new little wrinkles that don't really matter early on, but being able to get like those bounties and stuff, new activities to tackle. I think that was at the perfect time in the game in terms of just, I've done all this content. Oh, now here's a new wrinkle. I really like that. So I think there was a lot of testing that went into that. You can tell. And
Yeah.
I
And learned a
think
lot
that
from
paid off
Division
for 'em.
1.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that really paid off for him.
The game still needs to do some work on like helping players identify with the ongoing like events of the game. I mean, like the fiction and the story for me just don't hold up almost at all.
Yeah.
There's not enough distinguishing marks. I don't know who any of the characters are that I'm interacting with. There's too many of them.
There's a story?
I mean, there really almost isn't, and and yet there's ostensibly there's this focus that you're meant to be caring about this stuff, right? So
Unskippable cutscenes.
Yeah, there's that. There's the like you find these these scattered
You can skip
pieces
them.
of information, right? That like these tapes and stuff, and I don't care about any of it.
Yeah.
And I'm a guy who really does, as a general rule, in any game I'm playing, I want to know the backstory. I want to know the fiction. That's something I care about. But here I just don't. I think there's a lot of reasons for that, but it all comes down to the fact that if they want that to be something that we care about, I think they need to do a better job of synthesizing it and helping me feel engaged emotionally with what's happening.
That is definitely the weakest aspect of the game.
Yeah, I think.
Leo, if you hold F, you can skip them.
Can you?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean,
you go.
Dan's
Oh,
at
great.
the other end of the spectrum for me, I think. I mean, not to put words in your mouth, but I don't
No.
think you care about that stuff at all.
I'm not
right?
a story in a loot-driven game. I'm generally not a story-centric guy, but in the Division 1, I actually surprisingly got into some of those characters. Like I really wanted to know, Joe Farrow, the sanitation crazy man's backstory.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to care about, right?
Yeah,
but
sure.
I actually was interested.
I actually agree. I think it's maybe one of the only things that the first Division game does a little better. I cared about it a little bit more, and here I could not tell you a single character's name in this game
Right.
after 20 hours.
I felt
President.
I felt like in Division 1,
What's his name?
in Division 1, they,
Grenade
something?
thrower president.
they would play up a little bit more, like you'd learn more about the faction before you went out to take out their
Yeah.
leaders. In this game, I was like, you're going to go take out the leader of the hyenas. I'm like,
I don't
who's
know.
that?
Who is that?
Yeah, I've
Well, I
never
guess
met
I'll
him.
go murder them.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they talk about this infected group of people, and then I fought the outcasts for 10 hours before I found out, they're the
They're the
infected guys.
outcasts.
No, they had the green.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing that if we're nitpicking, like the whole destroyed Christmas vibe, it worked in New York, but it's like you have such a really cool place in these museums and monuments you're going into in DC. Like it's kind of lost a little bit at times with
Yeah.
ruined Christmas trees on top of all of it.
Yeah.
Like The next one, just go spring. Go a month later, January,
Somebody's
whatever.
gone through and cleaned up the Christmas decorations.
Yeah, there's lots of little things that just don't that. Like I'm amazed at how hardy those hostages are, man. They can take some
right.
real hits. Like the guy just bursts out a flamethrower and just starts blowing up that hostage's health bar. Doesn't even like move. It's just like don't kill. And then he just pulls out a gun and just starts fighting back. It's like, why were they in this situation in the first place? You know,
Just run away.
it doesn't
man.
have to make sense. I get it. It's fine. It's shooting stuff and getting loot, and that's what it's good at.
It's so good at it. Yeah.
How are we feeling about the clan system? Have we dived into that at all?
Yes, I have a great clan on Xbox. Republic 4, if you're looking for a clan on Xbox. I think we have spots open.
There it is.
But yeah, we have a good group of players, some of them way up there in the end game. But I like that we're gaining levels. Yeah, I think we're up to, as of this recording, level 7 or 8.
Nice.
And each one gives you different things, more bounties, more items in the clan
Starts a
shop,
clan
stuff
store.
like that.
You get clan bounties. You're gonna need a pretty decently sized clan, but then you start unlocking like weekly clan caches too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, ours was like, as of this recording, like 8%, something like that. So, yeah, I think that's really, again, another thing that just kind of keeps, it's something you're working towards in the background.
Yeah.
Right. Like you're leveling up your character, you're doing all this stuff, but then XP is also going into that, so it's like, well, we can level this up if we run one more mission tonight.
Yeah.
There's all of those throughout the entire game, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Everything's rewarding.
Like the Dark Zone has its own specific tier of perks and upgrades. Just
And a
having
level,
those constant
yeah.
loops is really, really great. The clan system, definitely, yeah, like you said, you need a amount of size. Me and my friends, we've got like 6 people, and we will never get a weekly cache ever, probably.
6 people is gonna be tough. Yeah.
You should move to Xbox and join Republic 4.
Okay.
Republic 4.
How about enemy types? I feel like they're a lot more varied.
I
At least
love
as
the
far as
sledgehammer
weak points.
guys. Sledgehammer
Yes.
guys are amazing.
So scary the first time you see
Yeah.
those guys.
It's never going to be like a big super sci-fi outer space
Yeah.
thing, and so there's some limitations there that they're holding to slightly more, with some exceptions.
Sledgehammer man isn't a
but I mean, compared to other things like an Anthem or a Destiny, where you have these really crazy creatures that you're fighting, you're not going to have that kind of experience here. But I think they've done certainly a better job than in the first game of giving a good bit of variety to the types of enemies and how they move and how you'll interact with them.
Certainly expanded on what works about them with having, like, if you flank them, you'll see this pouch on their back, you can shoot them and they'll blow up. Or if they're an engineer, you can shoot their pack and, like, they won't be able to fix their kit, things like that.
I thought for sure when they announced this that they'd have, Division 2 is coming, that they'd have vehicles.
Yeah.
And that just seems like an easy way to greatly expand the depth of, a tank bursting through a wall or, like guys on a Jeep. Maybe you don't get to control that stuff, but I'm surprised that they didn't do that at this point. It's still just everybody on foot.
Yeah, before you have the fast travel points unlocked, you are doing a lot of sprinting, auto running.
Yeah.
Just thankfully
And that would help. Yeah. Division 3.
Yeah.
Set in January.
Ooh. I love
month
how
after Christmas.
hilarious that the contextual dialogue is sometimes. Like I'd have a guy with a shotgun just like walk up right behind me and like easily be able to one-shot me, and instead he's like, "This looks like a good place to set up a turret."
Yeah.
Just like, okay, if you want to do that, go.
I'm going to be locked into this for 10 seconds.
Boom. Whoops.
Yeah. Well, anything else we should cover here?
Just that I love it like you are. Like you said, you love it. I haven't been hooked on a game like this, like a loot shooter, in a long time, and I just think it's fantastic.
I am hooked.
I'm having a great time.
Miller, do you think you'll see it through to cap at least?
I'll go through to cap. I think that personally the post-apocalyptic real-world setting is a little less appealing to me than some of the other stuff on the market. People who watch the podcast know I'm a long time like Destiny guy, and I think that game is also made some good strides in recent months and has some good stuff on offer. But I like a lot of what the Division 2 is doing. I certainly think it's a stronger initial launch than really almost anybody else in that space has managed, which speaks well to, its live game, right? If your starting place is that strong and you're not spending the first 6 months just trying to get things into shape.
Anthem.
Yeah, I mean, like Anthem is in a rough spot for that, right? I quite like the concept of Anthem, and I would love for that game to be good, but side by side with Division 2 as a launch product, there's almost no comparison.
For years, people will be saying when a live service game launches and isn't very good at the start, they'll say, "But Division 2 did it."
Yeah,
You
I
know?
think that's true. And so, like, whereas with Anthem, I'm like, well, I sure hope in 6 months that game finally is like meeting some expectations.
Right.
I think Division 2, 6 months from now, could be like, wow, that game was good at launch and it's really great now because it's got raids and it's got like this new class or specialization. Like, I don't know all the stuff that they're going to bring in, obviously, but I'll be excited to see that stuff and know that they can be moving that way without having to spend a bunch of time just fixing problems.
Right.
Yeah, they have an excellent like building block. I can't wait for like more spec options. I'm really interested to see how the raids are going to go because
8-person
8
raids.
people, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
See, that's the key because we're just talking about Destiny. Destiny has raids where they require specific mechanics that have to be done in order to complete the encounter. In this game, it's like even on the hardest stuff, yeah, it's really hard, but it's just it's still the same dudes with grenade launchers just doing the same stuff they always do.
Yeah, with a new armor color.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably what's going to happen, I would guess.
I
The
would too.
bosses will be just bullet sponges like they were in Division 1, like significantly harder.
Yeah.
But I welcome that. I still think the gunplay is just rock solid.
It feels good.
Every conflict, I have a good time.
And they've shown that they care about puzzles through what we talked about earlier. So hopefully they put an emphasis on that in the raids.
Oh, yeah.
'Cause that's
Yeah.
the most fun part of the Destiny raids for sure. That's some of the
Just
strongest
figuring
content
out
there.
how to get in the next room.
Yeah.
No jump puzzles, thank God.
Vault puzzles.
Well, you'll have roll puzzles.
Oh no.
Right. Well, great. Thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show. Tune in next Thursday when we'll have a new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.